Good morning, everyone. For all of you in the true crime community, as of our very unexpected day off yesterday from the Karen Reed trial, apparently, Miss Reed may not have been feeling her best. That is exactly what has been said, just around the socials. We have no official word from the court itself. Just based on the fact that Hank Brennan and Adam Lally and the judge and everybody else was there, but not the defense team, nor Cameron Reed. It's also said that they did have a Zoom meeting with uh, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, and the prosecution with Judge Cannone to work out some scheduling since they were all there anyway. Um, Seems like they let the court know last minute, but since Alan Jackson showed up in a hoodie, seems to me he knew ahead of time. He had been out the night before at some kind of martini Celtics thing with Karen Reed. They were there together. Yeah, perhaps she's just not feeling her best. Hmm. Wow, what an ordering is that? Thank you so much, Turtle Moves. But how could it not be the best day with all those orders? Thanks. And hey, Couch, hello. Good morning, book lover. Oh, it's early for you where you are, isn't it? Good morning. Hope you're going to have a good day. Well, right now, let me bring up our favorite fan, all of us being a fan of the fan, as we wait for court to start. I'm trying to decide what to put in the corner. I still have my research books up there from yesterday, last night after the lovely break where I took a very lovely sleep in yesterday. I did a true crime and legal update, and we went over the hearings that are coming up for Lori Valadez Bell and Brian Kohlberger, and also the hearing that just happened on May 8th for Paul Canero. Back to regular case coverage. And so I had all those research books up there. Well, let's see. I mean, we have the coffee one. Hmm. We have the hmm. We have my laptop research. And we have just chilling. Yeah. Just chilling. Yeah. I don't know. Any preferences? Yeah. I would leave just chilling up there for a little bit. Oh well, wait, it's so early. I think we need more coffee. I'm gonna pass some coffee around. Hey, Couch, we got another subscriber yesterday in Twitch. We're at 38. Okay? Like, wow, we're only 12 away. We're getting there. One sub at a time. One follow at a time. You'll have to forgive my voice. I woke up a little croggy or croaky. What's it? Croaky. That's it. Did I say croggy? Because I'm thinking frog. It went to say croak, and it was croggy. It's amazing what the brain works, how the brain works on only a couple of sips of coffee. I definitely should not hit that button to go live until I've had a full cup of coffee. Hey, Jen. Morning, love. Did I mean research potato? Yes. Did you like that little picture of the memories, right, Jen? There you go, the research potato. That's exactly what my Chromebook looks like, too. All thin and silver like that. Like, yep, yep. Yeah, Jen, you've been here. You were here for that first trial with the Chromebook, Johnny Depp. I did say Croggy, didn't I? Yes, it's Froggy and Croak together. I'm making my own language. Yes, it's Language Wednesday. I've just decided. Oh, how about a chill at top left? Well, I can't because that's where StreamYards puts all my dial stuff I have to watch, like my view count, my seconds, the times I have to mark down for my timestamps and things like that. So we'll have to stick with the coffee over there in one corner, and me down in the bottom. That is how language evolves. Exactly. On Wednesdays without enough coffee. Yes, this is exactly how it starts, Jen. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, anyway, so we'll see what happens today. We're supposed to get a new witness. They are finally finished with the cross and the redirect of Sergeant Yuri Buchanek, and a lot came out. And yesterday, it was rumored, because I don't see a witness list of like who's next. I have a witness list, but it doesn't tell us who's coming up when. But it is said that it was supposed to be the niece and nephew. And if it is, we won't see their faces on the stand at all. They've got a media out. Nobody will allow to have their phones in the courtroom. No pictures of them or the use of their name will be allowed. Okay. So we're going to honor all of that. If we speak of the niece and nephew, it'll just be as the niece, as the nephew. If it's written, you use initials, be cool about it. Um, yeah, that's what they said. I don't know if the defense team went out drinking. I do know that there was something called a Martini Celtics thing. I don't know what that is. It was some kind of an event. I don't know if it was a sports event or what. The Celtics is what? There's a basketball team, isn't it? The Celtics. And so, like, I don't know if it was something like that, but I do know that both Alan Jackson and Kieran Reed were there, or at least it's been stated as so. I haven't seen any pictures to confirm. But then yes, it was said on the socials that Karen Reed was not feeling well. That the reason there was no trial was Karen Reed had said she was having a slow start. She wasn't feeling well. She'll see how it goes. And instead of seeing how it goes, the judge just said, no, we cancel the day. They weren't going to just like wait and see if she was going to show up and inconvenience the jury. Who finished your cuppa? I wonder, Jean. You got somebody there taking your coffee? That is not cool. I mean, in my house, like people have suffered for less. Mm. So I hope everybody had a good night. I know we are on the third day of the P. Diddy trial also. Just to keep you abreast, we'll be doing a recap of the first 3 days of Sean Combs' federal criminal trial at the Southern District in New York, at the Moynihan Courthouse. We've got day 1 and day 2 under. They finished jury selection on Monday, and then they went right into opening statements. And so we'll have a recap tonight at 9:30 to go over the first 3 days. Hopefully, we'll have today's update with it, whatever happens today. We'll do another one on Friday to end the week, just to keep us on with that one. There are no cameras for that court. We have to go by reporters, journalists inside the courtroom. Law and Crime is doing some good coverage on it. Several of the other stations, they've got people inside taking breaks, coming out, doing little snippets, but it's all word of mouth. It's almost 10 after, and we still do not have anybody, no noise from the courtroom. But on the socials, they are definitely saying that we will have trial today. So let's see. Let's see if there's any news that any new updates. They are saying that the niece and nephew are scheduled for today. as it was yesterday. They got a last-minute notice. All the reporters, while they were outside at 8:30 in line, according to one journalist for one of the news organizations. So they were standing in line. They were waiting. It was 8:30. There was all this buzz in the courthouse. They didn't know if it was for another case or themselves, but they normally get their passes to go inside because there's like a selection and only a certain number are allowed in, and you're on it for the week. And apparently quite a few people were left off of it this week, that were a little bit upset about it, but that's how it goes. They do rotate them. But anyway, they were waiting in line, and then finally one of them got an email, and then all of a sudden everybody was getting the email just saying that court was canceled due to unavoidable circumstances. So we'll see. We do have people outside the courthouse that say that it does look like people are showing up and that they're there. So I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, we'll have to see. The defense attorneys had arrived. Um, I'm looking at a little bit of a clip with Karen Reed showing up in a light blue pantsuit today. I see Elizabeth Little with her wheeling of files and stuff for the courtroom. I did not see Alan Jackson or David Yannetti, but I assume that they are on their way in. Um, I do believe that Karen Reed must be feeling better because I see her hugging people on the way in, up at the top of the stairs. So there you go. It does look like she got some help from maybe her brother bringing in the files of, the case of files that she keeps behind her. So I don't know. Let's see. We'll see. We'll see. Nothing goes into the top left until another Dunning-Kruger nominee wins the title. Okay. That's a good one, Jean. I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought. Hey, Maye. Welcome. 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 Hmm. What? Let's see. Any court reporters yet saying what the delay is? I definitely want to see who's in the courtroom today. Oh, apparently they are setting up the AV machine, so maybe we're going to have some Karen Reed clips before testimony today. Oh, still no sound. I just checked, as you see. Oh, I hate that. Stop that. Like, come on. Get rid of the bar. Why does it do that? Okay, now I have to do this to make it go away. Is it going to go away? There it goes away. Okay. Yeah, well, hangovers pass. Yeah, they do go away, don't they? Especially if you take care of them. Mm. I did get a pleasant surprise this morning. My sister came home from work and she told me that, well, there's a new surprise in the Petridge Farm aisle cookies. They make lemon white chocolate Milanos, and I didn't know this. Mm-mm. Well, and she's really, really gonna push me over because she brought some home. So I'm gonna have to try some later on. I do like the chocolate ones, especially the dark chocolate. Mm. I hope everybody is having a good morning. I have no idea why they haven't started yet, though. Well, when? Like, everybody's saying, yep, we're going to start. Well, where? When? Okay. Let's see. Here's some of our other reporters. Nope. Okay, let's see. Let's see. That one, and then there was Christina Rex. It's usually in there, right? Let's see. She hasn't posted yet this morning, so she may not be in the courtroom today. Let's see. Somebody who's always in there is Sue O'Connell. Day 15. She's in the courtroom, and they'll be posting observations. The camera may miss. Okay, so let's go. She usually talks about the jury. Let's see. Just a reminder that if the niece and nephew testify, there are very strict rules, and that both of the counsel have agreed to about covering their testimonies will not be broadcasting. Oh, they won't be broadcasting their testimony or posting about it on social media during the testimony, and will not be sharing their names or other personal information. Most press members will be taking notes on their phones or paper. They're minors who are witnesses, so that may be the delay. They are not saying on any of the channels whether or not trial has started, and that the reason that it's muted is the children. So I'm not even able to confirm that with you. And it's not saying so on the socials, just that they would, not that they are. Oh, but I hear noise. Here we go.
Now open, you may be seated.
All right, so Mr. Clerk, you say counsel wants to see me?
They did, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't I see counsel at sidebar? Jim.
Okay, so we have a sidebar as soon as they show up, 15 minutes late. And it looks like the judge is just coming in, too. So there's that. Okay, so I wonder what this is about. I wonder if it's in regards to the testimony or who's here. I love typing. The first thing is that court begins with a sidebar. It's like we're back to that. Last week we didn't have that on Monday or Friday, right? Well, here we go. Yes, like the whole first week, I can assure you. Like, here's a question from Book Lover 22. Have there been more days where court started with the sidebar or just started with trial? Most of them started with the sidebar. I think we actually made note of it, that it was so odd on, I think it was Friday and Monday, that it didn't. Because we were like, what? And Rocket Couch starts the count from Twitch. We are on sidebar number 1. It's been noted that William Reed, Karen Reed's dad, has had a guard near him to keep him from making faces and staring at the jury in an intimidating way. Apparently, one of the jury members said he winked at them, and somebody had said it was making them uncomfortable because they're keeping him from interacting with the jury, which is a faux pas in the court for any member of the family, for anyone in the court to be, eyeballing the jury like that. I mean, the defendant does occasionally look over there, and so do the witnesses, but not in a glaring or intimidating or any kind of like staring, gawking kind of way. I don't blame him for being interested. I mean, his daughter's on trial here. Of course, he wants to see how they're reacting, but it was taken the wrong way. So I'm trying to see if the guard is there again. They have cordoned off their section. He used to sit a little farther over. So I guess they don't have to put as much of a guard there. Like they have him actually cordoned off from where he can sit. Looks like they caged them in. It's so rude looking, isn't it? Yes, I do agree, Rocket Couch, that it is good that the family, that the minors are being protected in such a way. I wish more of the witnesses were protected. Not that I don't want to see their testimony, but definitely that, I mean, Jen McCabe had to show up with security from the Commonwealth. And then, of course, the defense tried to make it like she's in such contact with the Commonwealth all the time. A lot of the witnesses were in extra contact with the Commonwealth, with the system in itself because of the harassment. Turtle says, "Did we have the day off to give Mr. Shouty defense man time to rest his voice? Maybe, maybe." Yeah, we did know that about the kids. I was just reading and clarifying and, reiterating the information that they wouldn't be seen. There was a court order that I read last week. You're absolutely correct, Couch. We read it online when it came through. We have our regular AV guy. Was his name Chris? I think they said to him. Yep, the regular AV man is back. It is quite a small courtroom when you think about it. Quite small. I guess they have to. You might be right there, Turtle Moose. She said the sidebar start is a tradition. They may need to continue that way out of superstition. Don't want to throw anything off. That's getting to be a long one, though, huh? I don't think they brought the jury in yet, so at least they're not being inconvenienced. Although they are waiting and they're probably wondering what's going on. Judge herself must have been taking care of something because she came in with all her files a quarter after. I would expect defense would have a much softer tone with the niece and nephew today if they are on the stand. I don't think it would go over with the jury very well if they were aggressive. Last year, in the first trial, their testimony was in regards to the relationship between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. In the one nephew had mentioned something that he did think that Karen Reed had access to the ring camera, but he knew that they didn't. They did not. But he did believe that Karen did because she was a fixture in their home. She spent quite a bit of time there. Someone made a note on the socials of something that came up in the testimony, especially in the text messages with Brian Higgins. One thing that was pointed out was that Karen Reed mentioned that she had her own room at John's house, that they did not share a bed because she thought that was archaic. And yet when she showed up, when everybody was there to console the kids and everything, and the day that John was declared dead, she showed up there with her father to gather her things. She went up to John's room, their shared room. She said that in the documentary. She went up to their shared bedroom to gather her things. Her computer and a couple of other things, stuff she leaves there. Packed stuff up to bring home. Why would she have to go into his room? Like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. Like, there's always contrary statements with this woman. Anything that she says, she's gone, 5, 6 interviews now? And it's the front door, it's the side door, but she saw him go in, or she never saw him go in. There's too much contradicting information. It's like the story changes as things evolve. Thank you so much, Shield. A large, big super sticker here of coffee. I appreciate it. And good morning to you. Also, thank you for the ordering. It's always good to get orders. Orders are just happiness. Man, if you could have read the socials yesterday, or maybe you did, well, everyone just speculating as to why there was no court. It was total insanity.
All right, so
Karen Reed just left the courtroom.
All right, to the court, please.
Well, they're bringing the jury in, so we are going to have court. I guess she just needs to pick something up, or maybe she needed to make a quick trip to the loo. I will say I do like that colored pantsuit. I think it's very spring appropriate. I wonder if his attitude is going to be as chipper as that color. Somehow I doubt it. Last week it was the middle finger and scowling, and I actually saw a video of her pushing Alan Jackson, telling him what to do, interrupting his actual cross-examination several times. So once the jury comes in, we'll find out who our first witness is going to be. Oh, did you see the fan just stopped for a second there? Made my heart stop. Don't do that. Don't do that, fan. All right. See if there's anything going on the socials. Anybody heard anything? Everybody just goes, court's in session, sidebar. Sidebar. But they don't get to hear either, so there's really not much they can say. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so the court just handed out pens and legal pads to all the media ahead of testimony from John O'Keefe's niece and nephew because no electronics during testimony. So that's good. One thing of note is that in order to cancel the day yesterday, they had to have a joint agreement by both the parties and the judge to interrupt court proceedings. And it can be done for an illness, obviously. Nobody wants to be sick in court. All right. Nothing really on there. That's very, very cute couch using the otter. It's an honor to have you with us. I like switching up words with the otter stuff. And it is New Language Wednesday. We're going to make up all the words we want. Like Kroggy. Naps are awesome, Shill. Get all the naps in you can. We are very fortunate over here to have a very, very comfortable chat with not really a lot of things going on that have to be moderated. I mean, the most exciting thing is smashing bots in Twitch lately. And even with the capture words that Rocket Couch has installed, even that is getting kind of slow because they get held. You don't have to, yeah, you just report it and boom, away they go. Okay, this is taking a long time for the jury this time. I'm going to keep checking the socials to see if maybe they've got us muted because the kids are testifying or something. Hmm. Hmm. Don't see anything yet. I mean, everybody is saying the same thing. All I see is the fan. Somebody please update us. Like, I feel bad. It's like everybody's posting on I'm looking at X right now. Okay. I think the reason they're not saying anything is because they're prohibited from posting about it. So I guess we just keep each other company until that part is over. Because perhaps after they set the jury, they brought them in. And if they're not going to let them post on the socials, I would imagine they're not going to let us hear anything either. I don't recall how it was in the first trial because I didn't watch it. But I'm sure if Mandy comes in later, I can check with her. Actually, I could do a quick Google to find out too. Yeah, I think I will. Where is my... There we go. Let me find up my research page for this. Okay. During the first trial, John O'Keefe's niece and nephew did testify, but their testimony was not broadcast live. The court issued an order prohibiting any video or audio recording during their time on the stand to protect their privacy. So I would imagine the reason we're not back after they brought the jury in is the same thing. I would assume. I think, I hate that word though, assume, but it does stand to reason, however, that perhaps the niece or the nephew is on the stand right now. Then they will bring the other, and then they will come back, hopefully before morning break. Well, probably just in time for them to announce morning break. So basically, while the live stream was paused last time during testimony, most of the other channels just did replays of testimony and things like that. So, oh, I hear noise. Sounds like somebody's filtering through paper at the jury. There's a mic like right there. It could be one of the desks.
Yay. All persons have any
Okay.
business before the Honorable Beverly Cannone, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, before the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is now open. You may be seated.
Hey.
Good morning again, council. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, James. So a couple of things. We appreciate your patience this morning. Remember I told you the other day that we're trying to cut back on sidebar conferences. So we took some time now to address issues that we would have otherwise had to do that way. So we do
Okay, it was the
appreciate your
second sidebar.
And also, I really appreciate your patience about and understanding about yesterday. Sometimes during trials, things come up that are completely unavoidable, and I tried to cancel you as soon as we could so you wouldn't even have to come to court. So I appreciate that. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we were last here? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation on this case? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here the other day? Everyone said no or should. All right, can we have our next witness, please?
All right, Mayor.
Yes.
The Commonwealth seeks to introduce two clips.
Okay.
The first clip the Commonwealth would seek to introduce and show the jury is clip 20.
innuendo here that you guys have really been going at it. This was sort of had like a last date element to it. Is that going on?
That was not going on. John made it clear to me, I'm never breaking up with you. You know, not never that we're in this good or bad, but you're the best person I've ever.
Commonwealth would ask to show clip 19.
Okay, I'll take myself off there so you can see the whole thing.
I don't think, I don't see how John would have known about my text with Brian. And I'm not sure if he knew he would have reacted very strongly. I think we would have broken up, but I don't think John would have lost it and caused a fight. I didn't feel like John's emotions with me got really strong.
Thank you.
Well, there goes the jealous fight theory.
All right, Ms. MacLaughlin, who is your next witness?
Your Honor, our next witness is a juvenile by the name of Miss Kaylee Furbush.
Okay, we don't get to hear this part. So they are calling the Commonwealth. It's going to be, from what I understood last time, the interview was very short. Like the testimony was short question. So we're just going to have to wait. It's going to be the niece, and then it's going to be the nephew. Going to be a very disjointed morning for us, but I'm not going to end it or anything like that because it seems silly. We'll just hang out. Let me see what I have in my room here. Oh, have you guys seen these things? Like, I'm going to post a link. Has anybody seen these little, somebody's been posting them on Twitter. They come from TikTok, but there's these little clips of the trial, but it's babies playing all the parts. It's adorable. It's really crazy. I don't want to lose the stream by bringing it up because I can't bring two things up at once in StreamYards. One of the reasons I really should be on OBS because I could have just popped that up in the corner here and we could have watched it. Well, I'll get there eventually, people. I will get there eventually. There has been an account on X that has been posting about the Reed family drama that's been playing out in the courtroom, their treatment of others and things, you know, the way that Karen Reed's dad has been holding court, so to speak, and ordering people around, being quite intimidating. But it's hard to say because, you know, that's only one opinion, you know. Not being there and seeing yourself. I don't really see a lot of it in regards to what we see in the courtroom. I mean, I see faces being made and stuff like that, but I also see people making big things out of nothing. For instance, last week, there was an instance where Karen Reed was talking to Alan Jackson and the AV guy, and you could see that the AV guy was behind Alan Jackson. But if you look between their heads, you could see Paul O'Keefe. And so they actually posted that clip and put the headline on it. Paul O'Keefe stares down Karen Reed and Alan Jackson. And it made it look like Alan Jackson was going to go do a sidebar and complain about it. But he was actually talking about the AV equipment in the next clip and what they were going to play. It was so taken out of context, you know. And I just think that stuff is unnecessary. Like, facts are facts. If you can't make your case or your opinion with actual real evidence, if you're going to misconstrue things and make them appear like something they are just to go along with your narrative, well, your narrative is false. And you're just making yourself look like an idiot. Like, how is anybody going to believe anything that comes out of your mouth when you do stuff like that? Honestly, like, people just do the worst to try to make a point that they're losing all of this credibility, you know? Jin, I do hope that he's nice to those kids. Like, I don't even, you know what, Jin? I doubt it will be Alan Jackson on the cross. If they were smart, it will be Miss Little or David Yannetti. They're much calmer. You know, Alessi's scary. He barks. He barks now and, raises like every other word. He raises up a couple of octaves to yell at you. I don't know where that's coming from, but he's more technical. I don't think it would be him. It might be Miss Little or David Yannetti. And I'm sure it's just straightforward questions from before to shore things up. I don't think it's going to be antagonistic. That would be very foolish to do in front of the jury with minors. Those children lost their mother, their father, and now their guardian, their uncle, that they've known all these years to take care of them. It's tragic. Yes, that's called lying. That's called lying. Yes, I get it, Jean. That's called lying when you misconstrue the facts to build on your narrative just to make a point that really doesn't exist. I mean, the fact that they went out there, I mean, that's just so dumb to do that stuff, Just like when they alter the photographs and stuff, and like, why? If the facts of the case don't prove your point, they don't prove your point. I mean, especially with this case, there's enough evidence that could go either way. You don't have to alter anything. You just talk about the facts of the case. If it's very true there. It's very true. If any of the jurors have kids, putting one of the shouty lawyers up to question the kids would throw away any sympathy they might have left. Exactly. And you know what? Let's just hope that Karen Reed puts on a good face too. Because if she's glaring at them, that's not going to go over well. And she has glared at quite a few witnesses. I mean, she must have some common sense not to do that with the kids there. It's bad enough that she complains so much about them to her family and to other people. And yet, tells in interviews and all that, she really cared for them and did her best to help take care of them with John. But it does appear that she blamed them for them not having the relationship she wanted. He was split. He didn't give her enough time. He had all these responsibilities. So she sounds like a pretty jealous, petty person. I mean, if you don't have children, I guess, if it's not your children, you didn't choose to have them and raise them, it is a difficult situation. And I get that. She has every right not to want to be a mom or not to want to be a caretaker. And that's not what I'm talking about. But if you're in a relationship with somebody that has them, then just move on if it's not what you want. Because trying to separate their opinions and their responsibilities with those kids is just wrong. It's just wrong. Of course, none of us were there, so we don't know the real deal. We only know what we see in text messages, her own words, and the post situation. We don't get to see everything that happened before. Everything looks different after. Yeah, very selfish, I would think, Jen. That's how it appears anyway. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her feeling that way. Everyone's entitled, to make their own decisions that way and support her right to be that way. But move on. You're 2.5 years with someone when you don't want to have kids or have a relationship with anyone with kids, that's a waste of time. And you're the one who did it. You can't be blaming it on anybody else. She stayed, you know? I'm looking to see what the testimony of each was and each of the niece and nephew in the last trial so that we can get some idea of what they're going to be covering since I wasn't there. First of all, they are minors. At the last trial, there was 16 and 13, so they could be 17 and 14. John O'Keefe's nephew, who is the younger one, testified describing the relationship between O'Keefe and Reed as quote unquote sometimes rough, noting frequent disagreements and arguments, including during family vacations to Florida and Aruba. He gave testimony in regards to the incident that happened New Year's Eve in Aruba, which Hank Brennan has just filed a motion at the beginning of the month based on conversations that Brian Higgins and Karen Reed had in the text messages that were addressed in regards to jealousy and some woman since they brought it up. And Alan Jackson opened the door with the full text messages being entered, the texty flirting relationship between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed. Fair game. It's coming in. I mean, he asked for it to come in. I don't see how it won't. He also testified and mentioned that Reed was nice sometimes, well, most of the times, but also recounted several instances where she yelled at him and his sister, and it became an issue. He confirmed that he never witnessed either John O'Keefe or Karen Reed raise a hand in anger toward each other or have any physical altercation of any nature. The niece, who was a little older, also talked about the relationship. She characterized the couple's relationship as good at the beginning, but bad at the end, highlighting increased arguing and fighting over time. She recalled an occasion where her uncle asked Reed to leave their home, but she refused, becoming loud and swearing at him. On the morning of January 29th, the day of the incident, when they started all those text messages back, remember we saw all those text messages in the missed calls? They were talking about something that happened in the morning. The niece testified that Reed woke her up around 4:30 a.m. This is the morning after they were out drinking. That she woke her up at 4:30 a.m., appeared frantic, and was pacing the hallway. Reed reportedly said, "Maybe I did something," and later speculated, maybe a snowplow hit him. So she was back at the house, pacing around 4:30 in the morning, and woke the niece up. The niece also testified to the communication with Jennifer McCabe that we already heard from Jennifer McCabe's testimony earlier in this trial, stated that she called Jennifer McCabe, placing Reed on speakerphone during the call because, Reed was very upset, had woke her up, but this is how Jennifer McCabe got involved with the whole helping Karen Reed with Carrie Roberts to go look for John. In the last trial, it is stated that both of the children testified calmly and composedly, referring only to Karen Reed as the defendant, never saying her name, and avoiding direct eye contact with her during the time on the stand. Their testimony did provide, according to reporting, insight into the nature of John O'Keefe and Karen Reed's relationship and any events leading up to and following John O'Keefe's death. So we'll see. It's going to be along those lines. I do believe they're going to speak about the ring camera, though, too. Asking I'm asking Google if that came up in the testimony at all. I did see documentation somewhere where the nephew had said it. I saw it in one of the court documents, and I can't remember if it was an affidavit from. Did either the niece or nephew mention? Oh, who knows? Hi, Liam. I am curious to find out like more about this ring camera evidence that's going to come in. What's this, Jen? Oh, I'm not being amiable to KR's innocence? Purported innocence? Of course I'm not. Because it's not what I see. I'm not blind. I know the Northeastern is conspiring against her also. Yes, she's just going to have to count me into the 140 people, I guess. Morning, Liam. Or should I say good afternoon? It's this afternoon by you. We're watching the fan because either the niece is testifying right now, and then we will have the nephew, and there's no cameras or audio for that because they're minors. We'll just have to hear from reporters later what was testified to. We're hoping that we get more witnesses afterwards without them going on a morning break very quickly. Maybe Judge Cannone will have pity on us on here out there on YouTube and on the live feed in and those watching. We did start the day with a rather long sidebar, then called for the jury. He went to a sidebar again without telling us, but we're still counting it as number 2. We're at number 2. We're at 2 sidebars already. Since it was Elizabeth MacLaughlin, Laura MacLaughlin, rather, that announced the witness, it is presumed that she is the one doing the direct. And that makes sense. I don't even know how to. I don't know if they're going to break in between to let us know. So I just have to make a note. I made the mistake of watching some of the so-called legal channels to see some content yesterday after the day off was announced. Oh, really? What did you watch? Oh, you said it was a mistake? Did you run into some of the biased legal channels? I'm very curious. What is it they're saying? Yeah. I like all the little emojis you got going on there. So I'm wondering what their takes are now. Like I've seen some of them go really hard, saying that the whole case should be thrown out. You know, they even it. Yeah, I mean, they seem to forget about the snowstorm. You know, and they seem to forget that you can have, you know, a officer like, you know, Trooper Proctor who acts out and still have the rest of the investigation be okay. The vitriol directed towards witnesses was really unprofessional. Wow. That I'm surprised about. I would think that lawyers would have some candor, like with the back stuff, you know? But yeah, I mean, I have heard that that does go on a few of those channels. The vitriol towards the witnesses is absolutely horrible. And I think they just do it for the clicks and views. They do it to, like, to be outrageous because I mean that's bad legal manners. I'm sorry. I'm not even a lawyer. I mean, does anybody really think that all of these witnesses conspired to testify against her in a certain way? I don't really think so. I mean, in the beginning of Jen McCabe's testimony, she said how she liked Karen and how they were getting along. And she thought that her and John were good and she was happy to see them. And it showed it on the video. She was clapping when they came in and she was smiling and happy that they came. She invited them back to her brother in law's house to continue hanging out with them. And all they want to do is turn it into something sinister. Hmm. Well, I am surprised about vitriol towards witnesses, though, by the legal channels anyway. I mean, some of the commentators, I guess, they do it. I see all the time, but I'm surprised that a professional would do that, or at least one that's actually active in the legal system now. You think they'd know better? It's just unbelievable. I mean, really, all of them. Do you know the effort it would take to make that big of a conspiracy? Who would be the mastermind? And how do you get all of those people to agree to do all of this? It's such a short amount of time. To this Rocket Couch, the niece would be number 26. And that's because I counted Borino again every time he testified. So it's either 23 or 26 because I gave Guarino 2 extra numbers. Every time he appeared, I called it another witness number, like a testimony number, you know, because he would leave and then come back on a different day. Yeah, not just general people, lawyers actually saying that they conspired. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Exactly. 24 unique witnesses would be, yes, Rocket Couch, that's the best way to put it. 24 unique witnesses today. But I'm calling this testimony number 26 when I mark it on my streams, like in the thing. But yeah, we've had 24. Hmm. I mean, it is YouTube, Liam, so to each his own. I'm just surprised that they're legal professionals that do that actually go into conspiracy and all like that. And just doesn't make any sense, especially if they're watching the same trial and they could see the evidence that Hank Brennan's putting out. I mean, yes, there's reasonable doubt in some areas. I'm not going to deny that. Yes, the investigation could have been better, and there are problems. But there's some real hardcore timeline stuff here and things that just don't make sense that Karen Reed is saying in her own words. Come on. Like, how do they fight that? It was a sleep project you were trying, Jin. You're the mastermind. I'm glad you finally admitted it. Do you feel better? Yeah. You're just gonna go have to lay yourself at the feet of Karen Reed now. She's gonna have plans for you if you were the mastermind. I can't even imagine. Oh my God. I do believe one of the questions they will ask is if they had access to the ring cameras, and it'll be a yes or a no, and that'll be it. And that is only because the defense is going to try to say Karen Reed does it. She's already come out and said when she heard that Hank Brennan had got the keeper of records for Ring to come in, that she went out that day and so did her father, and they said the exact thing. Well, of course we didn't delete them. We wouldn't even know how. And they both said the same thing when they came out. I thought that was well rehearsed, well planned. And I'm just like, they're worried about it too. Uh-oh. The fan is acting up. Let me check the feed. Oh boy. What's going on with our feed here? Our feed is stuck. Oh, it's starting again. Let me go check other channels to see what's going on. Could have just stuttered the live feed. Oh yeah. Well, the other one, it doesn't seem to be. Okay, it's back. All right. So annoying. They just does that to make sure I'm paying attention, I'm sure. Hmm. I wonder if my Skype will scare not to press charges. Maybe, there's definitely some doubt in certain areas of the investigation and in how difficult it is to prove an event which no one else witnessed, but reasonable to the point of throwing out the whole case. I gotcha. No, not reasonable to throw out the whole case. And that is where instructions on reasonable doubt are very important to the jury, because it doesn't mean if you have any doubt at all. It just means reasonable. Like, is it plausible that this is actually what happened? And is there enough evidence to say, yeah, it probably went that way? Do you have to be 1000% sure that something happened to convict? No, you do not. And that's a misnomer that many people believe, that you have to be 10,000% sure without any doubt whatsoever. That's not the case. Reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable to think that everyone in the Canton Police Department, most of the Massachusetts State Police, everybody in the Emergency Response Fire Department, all of the people that attended the party at 34 Fairview, and everyone after is all conspiring against Karen Reed. Everybody hates her. Sounds like a persecution complex to me. But it would take so much effort, and it would never work. I mean, somebody would have flipped by now, for sure, and spilled the beans if they were all conspiring together. Nobody wants to go to jail. Nobody wants to get harassed. Why would they put themselves in this position? And why, if that's what happened, would they put the body on the front lawn? Why? Hmm. I mean, I agree. The investigation at the beginning was not the best. They were ill prepared. It was a storm. They made the best decisions they could. Hindsight is perfect vision. I'm sure they wish they did some things differently. I'm sure they wish they tested the blood and they did other things, thinking there's going to be a shock of a defense attorney trying to make them look exceptionally bad. Because although they do believe that they were witnessed a motor vehicle accident of some sort, that he was hit by the plow, by Karen, by something, you know, she had actually set up the scene that she had hit him. She was hysterical, and she got Section 12 and taken to the hospital. They pretty much thought there had been an accident and that she wasn't aware. They had all been drinking. I mean, and it's easy to think that with the evidence at the time. Oh, you snagged it? Are you going to send it to me, Jean? Chris Moore's got a new book called Animal Rising. I saw it was coming out in May. I do, yes. I do love me some Christopher Moore, and that is on a brighter side, on a lighter note, in a much happier thing. Those reading him, those give me joy. I have to thank you for to giving me a lead to Christopher Moore and all of those books that I have discovered, a new author that I absolutely love. Exactly, Liam. They were all drinking too. So they had to, Liam says, either way, they were sober enough to get everyone on the same page in an hour or so drunk that they couldn't even organize where to dump the body. I get it. It's just so crazy, right? Like, my goodness. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, this especially like some of the YouTubers out there spinning those tales that have been proven over and over again to be outright false lies and just propaganda, obvious PR to turn the table, obvious attempts to muddy the waters, and just has been just outright lies. Yeah. On another note, I did see one of those YouTubers actually got an indictment over the weekend, over yesterday. 2 more witness tampering and intimidation charges. Oh my. I just I just don't understand all of that. Thank you, Jean. Hmm. Well, we've been in court for an hour. Let me check on the socials again and see if there's anything. Although they're not allowed to report, so I doubt very much anybody will be saying anything. They are saying that the jurors did pay very good attention to the clips this morning. First clip about her saying she didn't think that they would ever break up. And the second about whether or not John knew about the text message, the texting with Higgins, and how she didn't really think he would care because he didn't have deep feelings that way. On another note, in regards to the Murdaugh trial, remember Becky Hill, the infamous court clerk who caused all that ruckus? 3 felony arrest warrants in Colleton County against Becky Hill. Charges are not specific yet. She's been arrested under 3 different warrants in South Carolina. Ooh. And she's got her mugshot. Man. Being reported by Fitz News, the news organization out of South Carolina that we followed for the Murdaugh trial. I've been waiting to find out what happens with her. The investigation was pretty brutal. Apparently, she did a lot more than just mess with the jury. She did surrender to the authorities at 7:30 this morning rather than have them come out and arrest her. I guess that they threw down an indictment yesterday, I'm assuming. We'll have to see what the charges are, but I'll be letting you know. Finish up that Murdaugh trial for us. I don't think that is the photo shoot Becky wanted for her 15 minutes of fame. Hello tomorrow, kiddo. Why does the fan keep stuttering? They're having trouble with their feed, or they're on break. He's not paying attention to it. They're making me very nervous. Also, in regard, now that I said the name Murdaugh, I'm remembering that Buster Murdaugh got married last week to his fiance. That was with him all through his father's trial, and then, yep, he got married, and he's still suing Netflix for the documentary and a couple of other companies. We'll see how that goes. Things were back and forth on that. It's gonna be hard. Like, he has to prove, damages and stuff, and he's going for mental cruelty. They did say he was responsible, and implicated in the death of Stephen Smith. In one of the documentaries, they referred to him as the alleged killer. I don't know about Buster. I do feel for him. He's lost his brother, his mother, his father's in jail. His family name has been dragged through the mud from his father's deeds, all of those financial crimes. His life is different. I mean, he was going to college. He's going to be a lawyer, I believe. I don't know if he went back. He did take a break from it. I do think he got entered back. I know his now wife was his fiance, was also a law student, and I think she God, she might be practicing already. Well, yesterday it was brought up that we're never going to know about the conversation that Buster and Alex murder had the morning of the murders. There obviously was a phone call, but we never are going to find out about that. It's been speculated. What did he know? What didn't he? I don't think he knew anything that was going to happen. I don't know if he has his own suspicions of things. I can't imagine he would want that for his mother and his brother. Or that he could keep quiet about it. What do we know? It takes all kinds of people, right, in this world. Like, who really knows another person? He did attend the trial, Buster, every day. Remember, tomorrow, kiddo? Like, he attended every day. But his support seemed weary or wary of with his dad. He loved him, he supported him, but he was a little distant. He sat a lot with his uncle, and he gave interviews talking about his uncle being his support and his guidance in things. I barely know who this is writing this dumb comment. I think you know yourself pretty well, Liam. I know myself pretty well. Yeah. And I wonder if that was support or wanting to know the truth. Yeah, I guess we'll never know, right? Tomorrow, kiddo, because he doesn't look like the type to write a memoir. Buster, of all of them, looks pretty close to keeps things pretty close to the vest. I was talking, Liam said that he doesn't know who wrote the comment. As we were talking about, no one really knows anyone else. Why is the fan keep doing that? It's really making me crazy. Like, you need to keep the feed. You need to keep the feed running smooth. Don't be giving me none of these heart palpitations there. You're a giraffe tomorrow, kiddo? Well, gotta be something. But now I know, okay? You're giraffe on your mother's side, okay? Silly giraffe. Very silly giraffe. I need more coffee. We are 45 minutes into testimony. I don't know if it's still the niece on the stand or if they switched over to the nephew because they're not allowed to say on the socials. Hmm. Hmm. Is it almost past midnight? Is past midnight there? Yes, it is late, right? Yeah. Yes, the reason the fan is on is the niece and the nephew are testifying, and we can't have any audio or camera on because they're minors. And I did go over like the testimony they gave last time. It was mostly about the relationship, tomorrow, kiddo, between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, and how things were good in the beginning, but they were getting bad, how they were quarreling more often. And the niece in particular spoke of a time when John O'Keefe specifically asked Karen to leave his home that they were breaking up, and she refused, and she was loud and cursing. Yeah, I was hoping that they would announce it the nephew too. But at the same time, I'm also hoping that they just rolled into it so that we're done soon and we get like real coverage instead of the fan. I mean, I like the fan. I'm a fan of the fan. But there is such a thing as too much fan. Hmm? Yes? Oh, you should order groceries tonight, Liam. You shouldn't be without coffee. They say crime against nature. Good morning, Maggie. I figured you might be lurking while you're working and doing things. Not much to see or say, though, right? Because we've got no witnesses that we can see. I talk about coffee all the time tomorrow, kiddo. And I know in the Murdaugh trial, like Judge Newman was with me. Coffee and stretches. Mm. Yeah, Liam, she does seem like a how dare you break up with me. If anybody's breaking up, I'm breaking up with you. And then she like doesn't leave anyway. Yep. I was talking about that to somebody the other day. Not about the breaking up, but the kind of person that says like, you know, well, I'm leaving. I don't want to speak to you anymore and we're done. And then you say, okay. And then they get at you because you didn't chase after them. What do you mean, okay? How could you say that? I was just like, well, what you want me to do? You made up your mind? Like, seriously. Like, okay, whatever. Yeah, true, couch me too. I'd like the notification. I just know it's already been like quite quite a amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, they called her to the stand at 42 minutes into my stream, and we're 1 hour and 29 minutes in, which means it's been like 40, more than 40 some odd minutes. So I'm just wondering, you know. I'd rather have a progress bar than a spinning Cheerio. Me too. I know. I know. Oh my. Uh, there we go. Yeah, call someone's bluff, then get upset. They actually turn out to not be bluffing. Exactly. You know, I had that happen to me once. Like somebody said to me, well, if that's how you feel about it, then I guess that we're over. And I'm like, okay, because that's exactly how I feel about it. And then, man, they didn't like that at all. I'm like, well, you just said we were over. I'm just agreeing, you know. So I was kind of like relieved about it too, because if that's how they're going to approach any kind of discourse with all that, it was not good. You like your pinwheel of death? I like my pinwheel. You mean the fan up there? You're out of coffee too, Maggie? You got to make a tea? At least tea has some caffeine in it. It's nice and hot. Yeah, trying to guilt trip you, Liam. Like, that never works with me. Yeah. I will, like, make myself feel guilty about stuff, but it's very hard for other people to make me feel guilty about anything. Like, I get immediately sus, like, right away. I'm like, uh-huh, oh, no. Like instinct. Ultimatums are never good. An ultimatum is never a good thing. Like, mm-mm. I do too, couch, those kind of mind games. Who has time for that? Oh, I'm sorry. He said, I'm usually too dense to fall for them. I know, then they blame you because you don't know what's going on, right? Like, I hate that. I have a bath-sized pot of coffee and you're not sharing it. You're not get. Hey, I didn't say I wasn't guilty. I said I didn't feel guilty. Like, but if you want to call me guilty, that's fine. And if I could share that bath-sized pot of coffee up there, I would. But I'm standing in it. Are you sure you want some? Oh, the pinwheel of death is the multicolored spinning circle on a Mac. Oh. I thought you meant the fan. Sorry. Yeah, I don't react to ultimatums very well at all. Like, no. I'm like, that's not reasonable conversation or communication. That's not reasonable compromise. No, no. That's what you were hoping I'd say. Like, you want me to like share my coffee after I'm standing in it. You know? I agree, Jen. Being out of coffee is a crime against sanity. Like, I could not go very long. Mm. I'm trying to think of all the things we can talk about to kill some time. And one thing that I had been thinking of, like somebody did ask me in the course of the week, like what did I think was the piece of information that really stands out the most to me, and it keeps changing for me. Based on other testimony, one piece or another gets more important or not. Um, but what sticks out to you guys, like as pretty much leading towards not guilty or guilty? It could be either. I don't want to assume I know what each of you think, you know? I've had quite a few people message me that I'm off the mark if I think that Karen Reed is not being set up. That I should curtail my comments a little bit. And I'm like, nah, because this is actually how I feel. I think the whole conspiracy that everybody is setting her up is too improbable. There's too many loose ends to it. It would take too many other things that we haven't seen or have any evidence of to be true to make it real. Sorry, this is just not how my brain works. But I see an active timeline in a probability window that puts Karen Reed at the scene of the altercation. And yeah, anything else just is improbable. I've said all along, I do not think she intended to do anything. But I do think a combination of emotions, fighting, being drunk, feeling of out of control, led to an unfortunate situation. It even may have led to her immediately trying not to acknowledge what happened, and a snowball effect happened. But sooner or later, she could have took accountability, like when she was arrested for manslaughter. But she didn't. And here we are. Now, do I think that there's actually enough to convince a jury? Well, I do think sometimes Alan Jackson does actually lead to a lot of probable doubt for the jury. I think he's been pretty good at pointing out some things and making some bomb drops, and he's very theatrical, and the jury seems to like that. People like it when you perform for them. They do. But I also think that Hank Brennan is very pragmatic, and he's approaching the case this time very different. And he's laying down an excellent timeline. And he has the benefit of looking at the defense's tactics from the first trial, and he has systematically knocked as many of them out as he can, like the 227 search, like the fact that they were saying that no one was interviewed from the house, the owners, or that nobody ever went inside. Not true. He brought in officers that were inside that house. Yeah. Okay, let's see what everybody's saying. Probable cause. So guilty. What stands out to me is how, after so much expert testimony showing how it actually works, that the defense still goes on about that search. I know, trying to say, I know, and yet we don't even think that their expert witness is going to testify. So far, I feel she did it, but can't understand why she just drove away. True. I think perhaps she didn't realize she hit it till after, like she just thought it was a bump. She thought maybe something in the road, he was out of the way. I'm not sure. She was angry though. She admits to being angry. She thought he left her out there. They are relying too much on just saying, nuh-uh. Yeah. And I really feel she has to scream innocent because she can't deal with how she just drove away without getting him help. True. The realization that if anyone had called 911 after that incident, could he be still alive? Maybe. It depends on how hard that hit was on the frozen ground. Um, you know, it doesn't have to be a really hard blow every time. If you hit your head in just certain way, these things happen. You know, it's a combination. Remember, he was drinking too. Well, it was a combination of the cold in the head injury. There was not a lot of internal trauma. So chances are maybe he could. Maybe he could, but we'll never know. I don't want to speculate on that and make it harder for the families and everyone. It's a really sad situation. The number of people who thought that the detective was being evasive because he would not play Jackson's game, plus his smirk being interpreted as Duper's delight, and not, oh, really? You want to trick me into saying something which I don't remember? True. I would say that he was very practiced into not saying a lot, and he drew the line at speaking for Proctor. I mean, he was his supervisor, so he kind of took it on the chin for all of that, and he did it admirably. But he did, like, I wouldn't say he was evasive, but I'd said he was a bit of an aggressive witness when it came to Jackson pushing at him, because he did acknowledge that he knew exactly what Jackson was doing and he wasn't going to play his game. And he was making it very difficult for Jackson to get a straight answer out of him. He would not give him one. He would not give him anything to twist. He wouldn't answer a yes and no question. He wasn't letting them set him up. And people were saying he was being evasive and not cooperative. And I'm like, I'm sorry. If somebody's trying to twist your words and attack you, I'll think you have every right to be defensive, especially since you're not Michael Proctor. And it seemed like Alan Jackson wanted to get all of the Proctor stuff in, and he did get some of it in. but like Sergeant Buchanan was like, I'm not making it easy for you. I'll give him that. He definitely, and that smirk that he gave the jury and all of us sometimes was really like, oh, really? Can you believe this? It wasn't like, laughing about the process. It was like this man was being over the top and he was like, can you believe this stuff? Like, I get it. Like, we were all Sergeant Buchanan at that point when he made those faces. Like, we all felt it. We all felt that way. Like, the guy was going like way, way over the line. They need to go so far with the conspiracy as to include an entire law enforcement software company in the conspiracy, which employs who knows how many people. That's probably the biggest improbability in the conspiracy argument for me. Yes. And also the instructor for all of this technology, Jessica Hyde, the professor that they brought in. Yeah, she's in on the conspiracy too. Like, that woman has time to be in the conspiracy. Like, I don't get it. One channel even dumped on him for putting his arm on the side after so many hours of being under cross. Something about him being a thug in his car with blaring music in the window. Oh my God. Really? I would say that he kept his grace considering how long that man was on the stand and how much of a cross exam he had to go through. I would say he was pretty graceful about it, at the end. I think he held his own. I would have been annoyed, especially and the fact that he's there knowing he's going to get attacked the whole time. He's a decorated officer. He's been at this a long time. And two things can be true at once. Michael Proctor could have done his job and still not liked Karen Reed and said horrible things because an officer was dead. And I don't think it's that. I don't think it was professional. And it probably shouldn't have happened. But I think we can all understand why it did. If that was someone you knew or someone you worked with and an officer, and you pretty well were dealing with the attitude. Remember, he had to arrest her, and she just wanted to change. She was acting all entitled, and she couldn't believe, like, she wouldn't just admit. He had already investigated enough, knew she said she hit him, knew that there was tail light when she was arrested. Like, they knew all this. And so, he felt a certain way after dealing with them. Who knows what else they had to deal with? From what I heard, the father was pretty adamant in the community, talking with people, trying to pull strings, trying to pull favors, So, I mean, perhaps they had, dealings with him and felt a certain way. And it doesn't justify being unprofessional or saying what he said. It kind of puts a black mark on the investigation. It gives them something to say. And it shouldn't happen. But I can understand it.
Give the court and jury in the case the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do.
Oh, we have another witness. Okay, so the children are done.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court?
My name is Zachary Clark. My last name is spelled C-L-A-R-K.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a sergeant with the state police, sir.
And how long in total have you worked for the Mass State Police?
Approximately 7 years.
And in what capacity do you currently work?
I currently work for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
In the detective unit, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how long or when did you begin working with the Norfolk County SPDU?
February of 2023.
And you're a sergeant currently within the state police, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you initially joined the Massachusetts State Police, did you undergo any training?
Yes, I did.
And can you please describe to the jury, generally speaking, what that training consisted of?
Yes. I attended the 83rd RTT, or Recruit Training Troop, with the state police, hosted in New Braintree. It's approximately 6 to 7 months in duration. It included criminal law, criminal procedure, motor vehicle law, defensive tactics, emergency vehicle operations, etc.
Now, when you initially joined the state police, where were you assigned?
I was originally assigned to the State Police Sturbridge Barracks, or C5,
And how long were you at the Sturbridge Barracks at C5?
approximately 2 years.
And where did you go from there?
From there, I transferred to the Crime Scene Services section in 2020, and I spent 3 years in that unit.
And what specialized training did you receive in relation to that work with the Crime Scene Services section?
Upon entry to that unit, troopers assigned are put through an in-house training program hosted by the state police. It's the lion's share of a year. Begins with the history of the study of fingerprints, biology, morphology. It progresses to supervised casework, processing techniques, evidence collection, and culminates in a competency exam for any of the disciplines that the trooper is assigned.
Now, when you're working for the Crime Scene Services section, how are assignments made typically within that unit?
Typically, troopers work on an on-call schedule. They're given advance notice, and they're on call for 24-hour periods. Most often, if a call is received or a request is made for crime scene services during that call period, the trooper assigned responds.
And sort of geographically, as far as the on-call trooper is concerned, how is that sort of divvied up?
So I was assigned to the Maynard Laboratory. The Crime Scene Services section is organized by crime labs. Maynard encompasses a large area, upward of 50 cities and towns. Some of the more northern towns would be Lowell and Billerica, and it goes all the way down to Canton and Stoughton. The trooper on call for that 24-hour period covers that entire region.
Now, sir, were you working with the State Police Crime Scene Services section on February 1st, 2022?
Yes, I was.
And where were you requested to go on that date?
I was requested to respond to the Canton Police Headquarters.
And approximately what time did you arrive at the Canton Police Department?
Approximately 9 in the morning.
And who did you meet upon your arrival there?
I was met by the requesting officer, Michael Proctor.
And what was the purpose, or what was described to you initially as the purpose of you responding to that location?
The request was made for me to assist in documenting a search warrant that was being executed on a vehicle housed at the police department.
And who do you recall being present during your time at the Canton Police Department and during that search warrant execution?
Trooper Proctor was present. There was a forensic scientist from the crime lab, Maureen Hartnett. There were various members of the Canton Police Department. There were members of the State Police Crash Reconstruction Section, Trooper Joe Paul, to name one. There were members of the Norfolk SPDU as well.
And if you know, in addition to Michael Proctor, how many other members of the Norfolk SPDU were present during the search warrant?
I'm aware of at least 3.
And what was it that you were asked to document at that location?
Namely, it was Karen Reed's vehicle.
And where was that vehicle located within the Canton Police Department?
It was in the garage bay.
Now, can you describe for the jury the process of your documentation or memorialization of that vehicle that morning?
Yes. Typically, upon arrival, I would consult with the requesting officer to determine the scope of the search warrant. In that case, it was Michael Proctor. He described that the vehicle was being searched for a variety of things, to include biological evidence, communication devices, alcohol containers, receipts, infotainment center data, etc. He asked me to document the vehicle with digital photographs. I then consulted with the forensic scientist who was present as well to determine the order in which the vehicle would be documented and processed. I began by documenting the vehicle's exterior with photographs prior to any manipulation or movement, and then proceeded to document the interior and its contents.
Now, any items that were seized during the execution of that search warrant, how were they photographed prior to being seized?
They're photographed in place prior to being moved.
Now, what kind of instruments or tools do you use typically while photographing items for crime scene services?
The main piece of equipment we would use is a digital camera. We wear protective equipment, namely gloves and a mask typically, often a scale so that the images can be calibrated to true size upon examination later. Sometimes placards or ruler tape we placed on items of interest or items that will be collected.
Now, on this occasion, you mentioned Maureen Hartnett from the crime lab was present there as well.
That's correct, sir.
And what did you observe her doing as far as any sort of documentation with relation to certain things or items or areas of the vehicle?
My recollection is that she was chiefly concerned with the exterior of the vehicle, namely the rear right corner, and she was looking for DNA and trace evidence, I believe.
And as far as, was there any delineation that you saw her place on the vehicle with respect to certain areas of the vehicle?
Yes, she marked various locations on the vehicle with ruler tape.
And is that something that you would photograph both prior to and afterward when she would place those stickers or labels on the vehicle?
The area would be documented during my overall photographs prior to her placing any placards or ruler tape. And then once those placards are placed, they would be photographed again.
Now, in addition to the photographs, what else did you do with respect to the vehicle?
I was also asked to process the front right passenger compartment of the vehicle for friction ridge impressions.
Now, what is a friction ridge impression?
A friction ridge impression is it's a replica or an impression of the friction ridge skin on the hands or the feet. Friction ridge skin is an evolutionary adaptation on human beings that allow for better grasp of objects. What makes it unique and significant to policing is that that friction ridge skin has unique patterns. They're formed through ridges and furrows or hills and valleys, and they're unique to every individual. In the hundreds of years that fingerprints have been studied, no two individuals have ever been determined to have the same fingerprints. Analysts are trained to examine these patterns, more importantly, the individual ridge events, and conduct examinations that can lead to identifications or exclusions.
Now, just briefly, can you describe for the jury that process of how you do that?
I would document the vehicle with photographs first, and then determine what medium would be used to process the vehicle. In this case, white fingerprint powder was selected. The particular area processed was relatively small. It was the front passenger compartment, interior and exterior. I focused on surfaces that were more conducive to friction ridge impressions. Certain surfaces are far more conducive than others. Typically, non-porous surfaces like glass, polished metal, dash surfaces are better for impressions, more likely to yield impressions than porous surfaces, which is items like paper or unfinished wood. The area was processed with white fingerprint powder, examined, and no impressions of value were determined to be present.
Now, just briefly, Trooper Clark, when you say no impressions of value were determined, can you explain to the jury a little more, expound upon what that means?
Analysts are trained to determine during the analysis phase if an impression is of value for comparison. What that means is whether or not the impression, if any, has enough quantitative and qualitative detail where it could be compared to a known impression or an exemplar and make a finding. In this case, there were no usable impressions.
Now, upon that initial documenting of the vehicle, were you asked to go anywhere else?
Yes, I was also requested to respond to 34 Fairview Road in Canton and take overall photographs of a scene.
And when you say overall photographs, can you describe to the jury what your understanding of that term is?
Overall photographs are essentially just like they sound. They're typically taken from a distance. They're not examination level photographs. They're general area photographs. This particular case, it was an
Okay, hold on. Let me get you another feed. Ah.
Banks were apparent from what I presume to be plowing. There was an area that did appear to be cleared and
Sorry
heavily
about that,
trod,
guys. Their feed
and
went down.
tires. Still, even in that area, there was a significant amount of snow with certain spots of grass showing.
Now, while you were there, sir, did you or anyone else do any sort of excavation of that front lawn area?
No.
Now, following that, where did you go?
I returned to the Canton Police Department.
And why did you return to the Canton Police Department at that point?
I had finished my assignment with 34 Fairview, and I was asked to return. I believe the forensic scientist was continuing to process the vehicle. At that time, I would re-encounter her and determine if there was any additional photographs required.
Now, in addition to the photographs that you took initially at the Canton Police Department, what else did you memorialize with reference to the vehicle that day?
They took general photographs of the vehicle, the contents. At one point, a bag was presented to me with evidence by one of the Canton officers.
Let me ask it this way, sir. At some point, you mentioned there was a reconstruction trooper who was present at the Canton Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
And so what, if anything, did you document with respect to that reconstruction trooper outside of the Canton Police Department?
Trooper Joe Paul asked while I was there to document a series of brake and acceleration tests with digital video that he was performing with the same vehicle. I was also asked to take photographs and video of the vehicle's backup warning system, which was activated as they performed some tests.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sergeant Clark, showing you with this. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
Or what do you recognize that to be?
this is the crime scene photos.
And what's contained on that disc, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed both inside and outside the Canton Police Department with respect to Ms. Reed's vehicle, as well as the scene at 34 Fairview on February 1st?
I presume it is.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seek to introduce in the minutes the next exhibit.
I'm assuming that that's all that's on the disc, and if that's the case, then we have no objection.
You've seen it.
I haven't seen that particular disc. We have received the photos in discovery. I'm not concerned about that.
Okay. All right, that'll come in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Exhibit 133.
Your Honor, may I have one moment?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could just publish a few of those photos to the jury.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I approach the witness
Yes.
just briefly? Your Honor, presenting me with 3 photographs. Do you recognize what's depicted in each of those 3 photographs?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize depicted in each of those 3 photographs in general?
I would describe these as mid-range and a close-up photograph of the vehicle's dash area.
And Your Honor, separately, may I Commonwealth seek to introduce and admit as the next 3 exhibits?
All right, I'd like to do it as one exhibit.
ABC?
Please, yes.
134A through 134C.
Thank you.
And my apologies, Your Honor. With the court's permission, may I now publish some of those photos?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2616. And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to zoom in on the steering wheel just above the L for the Lexus sign. And Sergeant Clark, do you see what's depicted up on the screen?
Yes, I do.
And from this photograph, just above the steering wheel on the right-hand side, what do you observe there?
Vehicle's odometer reading?
And is that what the odometer read as far as when you took this photograph outside of the Canton Police Station on February 1st?
Yes, it is.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2617. And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just zoom in a little on the center of that photograph. And again, Sergeant, if you could describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph.
This is a mid-range photograph of the vehicle's display screen, the center console, with the what I would describe as the backup warning system activated as the vehicle approaches a pedestrian.
And lastly, Ms. Gilman, the next photograph, which is 2618. And again, Sergeant, what are we looking at in this photograph?
More or less the same as the last photograph, sir.
Closer up image than the prior photograph, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. Thank you, sir. I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Yannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to switch feeds real
Good
quick.
morning, Trooper.
Good morning, sir.
I will bring it up. One second, we're almost there.
Trooper assigned to the crime scene services section.
That's correct.
And that was in which town in Massachusetts?
Where I was assigned, sir?
Yes,
Maynard.
Maynard, okay. About a year later, you actually joined the Norfolk CPAC unit or the Norfolk Detectives Unit, correct?
That's correct.
And when you joined the Norfolk CPAC unit, Lieutenant Brian Tully was the supervisor of that unit, was he not?
Yes, he was.
You are still with that unit, correct?
That's correct.
So you've been there for approximately 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years.
That's correct.
And so you were there when Lieutenant Tully was removed as the supervisor of that unit, correct?
That's sustained, and folks should to disregard that.
If I could request an instruction.
Jurors, pay no attention to that question or answer. That is not properly before you with this witness.
Is Lieutenant Tully still the supervisor of that unit?
Yes.
I'm going to see you at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Oh, okay. So she just sustained the objection and he just reformed the question to try to really get it back right in front of the jury again. She just said it was not for this witness to testify to. And he just went and disregarded her. Like, wow. Wow. Yes, sorry about the feed mix up. We didn't really miss anything. You know, as you heard. You know, Judge Cannone is usually pretty easy on them, but that was like, I mean, I'm more upset about it, I think, than she's gonna do. But she's just gonna tell them, no, we've already agreed you're not gonna go there with this witness, and he's going there. Yes, mom's paying attention. Judge Cannone caught that one. I mean, he flagrantly did it, like right, like wow, I wonder the faces on the jury right now, because like that happened right in front of them, and they're in sidebar right now, and they must see her talking to them, and I'm sure they're agitated. And even though you can't hear what they're saying, I'm sure their body postures and stuff must be like, I wish we could see. I really do. But of course, there's going to be the let's discredit everybody. Tully and Proctor, and let's just talk about all of the problems that Canton has in general. And that's why she didn't do it, even though that was her vehicle and her foot. This is why she couldn't possibly have done it, because other people did other stuff.
Okay, so going back to February 1st of 2022, you learned that Michael Proctor had called your unit, resulting in your involvement in this case on that date, correct?
That's right.
And Michael Proctor had requested that you go to the Canton Police Station?
That's correct.
At the time, were you aware that the Canton Police Station, or the Canton Police Department, I should say, had a conflict of interest with this investigation?
Rephrase it. Rephrase it.
Well, were you aware when you were called out on this case that John O'Keefe had been found mortally wounded on Brian Albert's lawn?
I was advised of that fact upon my arrival.
Okay. And you were you advised of the fact that Brian Albert's brother was a Canton police detective?
I did not know that.
All right. Still, it was the Canton Police Station and not a state police barracks where Michael Proctor instructed you to go, correct?
That's right.
Was he there before you, or did you arrive there before him?
He was there before me.
When you got there, where did you see Michael Proctor within the Canton Police Department?
Inside the garage bay.
And is that also called a sally port?
Yes.
And when you got there, was Michael Proctor the one to direct you to the Lexus SUV?
Yes.
And when you got there on February 1st, that was the first time that you laid eyes on that vehicle, correct?
Yes, it is.
There was no other investigator from the State Police Detectives Unit or the CPAC unit there with the Lexus SUV except for Michael Proctor, correct?
There were other investigators from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office present that morning.
In any case, you had no personal knowledge prior to your arrival of how long Michael Proctor had been with that SUV before you got there, correct?
That's right.
You have no personal knowledge about whether anyone was monitoring Michael Proctor while he was near the vehicle before you got there.
That's correct.
And before you got there, you had no idea how much access Michael Proctor had to that vehicle, right?
Correct.
Your assignment was to take photographs and to process the passenger's compartment in particular for fingerprints.
Correct.
And you did that.
Yes, I did.
Bless you. About a year and a half after that, on July 18th of 2023, you participated in this investigation again, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And that was because, in part, you had now joined the Norfolk CPAC unit, correct?
Correct.
And you participated in an interview of Colin Albert at the Norfolk DA's office, right?
That's right.
You knew at the time that Colin Albert was the nephew of the homeowner, Brian Albert?
Objection. I'll allow that. Did you know that at the time?
Could you rephrase the question?
Sure. At the time that you were called in for this interview and told that you would be participating in an interview of Colin Albert, you knew that he was Brian Albert's nephew, correct?
I was advised that prior to the interview, yes.
You conducted that interview along with Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
At the time, Michael Proctor was a state trooper in that unit, correct?
Yes, he was.
And you knew he was also the lead investigator on the case, correct?
He was the case officer, yes.
At the time of that interview on July 18th, before you began questioning of Colin Albert, had Michael Proctor revealed to you his connections with the Albert family? Will you approach?
Go on to the next area and see if you can come back.
Did Michael Proctor reveal to you that he and Kevin Albert had socialized together by drinking alcohol in his cruiser?
Sustained injuries, I'm going to ask you to strike that question. Disregard.
I need to be heard.
Wow. He is really out. Sidebar number 4. Is this number 4 or 5? Like, man. Never mind. This is really bad. They just want it out there. You know, Michael Proctor was drinking in his vehicle. This is why he was suspended. But this is not really good. They are really being adamant about getting this in there. Because this is part of their third-party culprit. They're trying to throw everything they can at Brian Albert and Brian Higgins as being more responsible for what happened to John O'Keefe than Karen Reed. They're trying to put it in the jury's mind that there was somebody else that should have been looked at, but the wall of blue apparently protected them. That's not exactly the case here. There was nothing that led them to them. Nothing. Even putting in those text messages with Brian Higgins and Karen Reed made Karen Reed look worse, not Brian Higgins. I'm sure in their eyes, they think that that was so romantic and everything. I saw a guy who was like, knew that this girl was stepping out on her guy, knew it was wrong, thought that she was hot, played around a little bit, and then like he wasn't that serious about her. He is not going to get into a fight with his
Good
friend
time to
about
take
her.
our morning recess. We'll see you in about 20 minutes.
Oh boy.
Sergeant, you can just follow up.
Recess. Ay, ay, ay. Now we go to recess. Okay, hold on one second. Let me just mark my file here. Oh, I guess Mr. Yannetti really worked on her last nerve, huh? So we're going to have the morning break for 20 minutes. But this third-party culprit is hard. They're from the orders in the hearing. If you recall, when we recorded all those hearings, Judge Cannone had said they could bring in third-party culprit if they had evidence of it. So, like, they're trying to interview, cross-examine the witnesses to try to pull out evidence. But if there's none there, they're not allowed to go to certain types of conversations or questions that are not relevant because the evidence hasn't been put in yet. So they can't go on a fishing expedition on free will in front of the jury. It's just not something they should be doing. And it is actually been ordered on. Motions were filed. She gave her ruling on it, and he's not obeying the ruling, it appears. Yes, another 20 minutes until another sidebar, Jane. Yes. Well, you guys are going to be listening to me talk a lot today instead of the court. Ay, ay, ay. Too much. I just don't understand why Yannetti's doing all those bad manners. I thought he was one of the reasonable ones. Oh. This is another note from the person who made notes on the on the testimony of the niece. This statement is pretty important. Okay, let me just put myself up now instead of that for right now. Take that off. We've got 20 minutes. But basically, the niece said that Karen said out loud the morning at Meadows, John O'Keefe's home, after leaving the hospital, "I am living a nightmare." This was after they learned that John was already dead. She seemed self-centered, never comforted either child when she went back to the house. Do you love Zachary's blue suit? Hello, Mandy. Yes, I do too. In support, yes. You know what? They're all told to be so brutal to the witnesses. Like, I mean, saving their client at any cost, you know? Well, to actually go against the judge's order, that's a little ridiculous. I mean, that's only bad for them, right? The more she lets them get away with stuff, the more they're going to try. It's also noted that Yannetti was the one who cross-examined the niece, asked her about going to get her nails done probably once in 2.5 years, and also helping with the school project, trying to prove that Karen had an amiable relationship with her because the niece is testifying that she didn't. So. We don't know if the nephew is going to be testifying later this afternoon. It's just ridiculous. Hmm. I'm looking to see if there's anything else. Apparently, Karen, part of the testimony was that Karen would lie about the kids to torment John. That's not cool. I would imagine. Thank you for stopping in there. I hope you have an amazing day too, Mandy. I hope everything's going well. As if the accusations are that KR never did anything nice to or for anyone else ever. I know, right? Well, they did want to make a point because it did actually stand out to the jury. If this is Denise saying that things were not doing so well, they got to try to throw some shade, right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Liam's like 5 hours ahead of me, and you're 3 hours behind me. So yeah, he's almost in tomorrow already. He's getting there. All right, so let's see. What else can we have? All right, so they're talking on the socials about Judge Cannone, rejecting uh David Yannetti's request to be heard at sidebar. Tells him to move on because he's already violating her thing. And now we're going to a morning recess because, like, she sustained the objections and told him to move on, and he still didn't. It's just not a good idea to keep pissing the judge off. I mean, she's only got so much patience. Like, stop it. Oh boy. I'll take there's some pictures of the defense team, and it really looks like Alan Jackson is miserable today. Hmm. According to Eric Bland on X, he said that Becky Hill from the Murdaugh trial, the Colleton County clerk, that she's been indicted and that she's turning herself in, and the charges are going to be involved with the perjury, giving false statement into the court when she was interviewed about the juror. Well, in regards to this case, I don't know how much more speculative we could get in these cross examinations by the defense attorneys. It sounds like a bit of a fantasy on Karen's part to think that John O'Keefe and Brian Higgins were going to fight over her. I will tell you one thing, that when they arrived at court today, something that I found like quite unusual, Boston 25 shot the arrival of the attorneys from their defense team. They all walked well ahead of Karen Reed. They didn't walk with her. Normally, they're all chummy and talking and everything. They were all sullen. Alan Jackson didn't even look at her. He was up ahead. He's not talking at all. Even Miss Little has got a bag. She's like well ahead. No one walked with Karen Reed into the court. I would say that she's been a bit pushy with them lately. She may have had words. I don't know. Nobody looks very thrilled to be there today. I can say that. I'm not going to say they're not being professional, but even as they went in, Karen stayed outside and hugged a few fans or friends. I don't know. Well, she's definitely walking on her own. I'm watching the clip, and she's well behind everyone. And that's not how they normally walk in. Every day I've been watching them, and they're like a group, and she's in the middle of everybody. She had somebody with her carrying her huge amount of files too. Hmm. I don't know if that means anything. I just thought it was curious. There's so many things to cover today. This afternoon, we have the Lori Vallow Bell hearing. We've got the P. Diddy trial going on in New York that we're going to be updating later tonight. It is raining, and there still are people waiting to get inside anyway, in line in New York to get inside to see that trial. From what I heard, Cassie Ventura will be back on the stand. Hmm. Also, the Menendez brothers had a resentencing. Did anybody hear about that? They got 50 years to life, which means they are actually eligible for parole. That's actually a win, and we have to see like what happens with that. They could actually get out now. I don't know how anybody feels about that. Hmm. Oh my. Did you just miss Lally? He did. He got to do the sergeant today. I wonder if he's going to cover anybody out. Book lover, let me tell you, that Perplexity AI is making our lives so much easier. Thank goodness. Like Arnold just made it so much easier for me. Did he? And I'm glad that you could access it too to read them all. Like that's like really cool, isn't it? Going to be part of my update. You see how concise it is? Yep. Lally is very serious. He reminds me, yes. And he was so calm and he's very direct. I don't think he gets enough credit. I don't. I kind of, that the first trial I heard was a mess, but from what I've seen in this trial, Lally's been pretty precise when he gets to do that. Maggie, I kind of doubt it too, but they will be eligible so they can file. So we'll see what happens. I don't see them getting out. It is very impressive. I can only imagine how much that'll help you keep up with the trials going on, especially hearings, any kind of public thing that's being reported on. It does help me get the facts quicker. I still go and look for the source documents, but it gives me like where to find them. It gives me who said what. It can actually pull quotes from the testimonies and things like that. It's actually very concise. And Arnold is showing me how to construct the wording to get the best possible effect back from the research tool, and to always use it in research mode instead of just a general question. It is really amazing. The amount of sources that it lists, quite a smart man, Arnold. I'll tell you that. I'm glad he shared it with me because it is going to really make things quicker, especially doing something like the Sean Combs trial, the Diddy trial on top of doing live trial all day for Karen Reed. Can you imagine? Like hours of research after. Oh no. This makes it a little more concise. I've already done day 1 and day 2. I've done, my research and my takes on it and done the overview. So then I just have to research now day 3 before we go live tonight. It'll be good. Yeah. I'm trying to remember how long we've been out. I think we've been out just about the time of the. Yeah, it's only been 15 minutes. Never mind. I thought it was longer. Probably because I'm running out of things to say because I've had to talk so much this morning with all of these breaks. I found it interesting, the clips that Hank Brennan chose to play at the beginning of the day today about Karen thinking they would never break up because there wasn't anything strong going on either way. but then also commenting that she wasn't sure that John O'Keefe would care about the texting with Brian Higgins because, like, there wasn't a lot of strong emotion that way. Like, that was a very odd thing to say, especially after saying they would never break up in another part of the interview. The testimony from the niece today clearly said that they were arguing a lot and that John did want to break up and had tried to ask her to leave the house, so she refused, and that there was a lot of arguing going on, and she was often loud and cursing and refusing to leave. So, I don't know. I would say it wasn't a good morning of testimony for Karen Reed. Her own words kind of confirm what the niece is saying. Several things that she has been reported as saying in these interviews, especially about the Aruba trip, that they've already played, actually give a bad light. That she might have been the jealous, angry one, well, not John O'Keefe. I do hope they come back on time. I can't imagine what happened to the other feed, unless they plan on covering something else today because of the Lori Vallow trial or something. But, I don't know. They're kind of like, local. That's NBC 10. That's the feed that went down in Boston. Oh, they brought another feed up? Nope. No, they're waiting until they come back from break. They were having technical difficulties. In the meantime, they said that they had another live stream going on the web, but they're having technical difficulties with between YouTube and the feed. Well, thankfully we found another one that is also a local news station. I do like Law and Crime. I love Jesse Weber. I watch all his stuff. I think he's charming, and he's very entertaining when he does his legal stuff. He brings on good guests. But they put logos and Q codes, those scannable things in the corner and all. It's just too messy a screen. It just gets too crazy for me. So I think I'll stick to the news feeds. Some of them are reasonable. The way she was flirting with Higgins, I think so. Like, she was just trying to make herself feel better. Maybe she was going to make John jealous. Who knows? I'm wondering, though, if he did find out, what if he found out that night in the car and that's what they were fighting about before he went in? And maybe her story is not exactly true about her telling him to go in and see if she was welcome. Maybe he said, just drop me off. I don't want you to come in. Oh, you've been texting Brian? That's true? And she was drunk and said, yeah, so what? And he said, that's it, we're done. And he took her drink and got out of the car, and maybe that's what set her off. I mean, we don't know that she's telling the truth about what happened between the two of them in the car. Oh, we could do the same thing as the defense, although it's not very comfortable for me, and just speculate the hell out of it. It's just as probable that happened than anything else, right? I mean, seriously. I just wonder what actually happened. What actually was their conversation in that vehicle? I think Brian Higgins, although he might have thought that she was pretty and smart and witty, I think he did feel a certain way, about being friends with John and all. And I think even if he did mess around, I don't think anything serious would have ever happened. Like any serious relationship would have come out of it. Um, just wrong all the way around. Especially the way she kept saying, she was there all the time, but she's saying, well, we're not married, and well, he's got kids, and like I'm not happy, as if it's okay to do that to a partner without at first telling them that you're over. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's not the way I roll. I mean, to each his own, right? But it's definitely not the way I roll. Yeah, it's like before you step out on anybody, like you should be out of the relationship. Liam kind of agrees with me. I bet that she has left out a lot of what happened in that car on the way there. I'm also sure that she can't exactly recall a lot because of the alcohol. I do think that has a lot to do with the misstatements and the changing of her story a lot. I don't think she actually knows. And I think she's just fitting in pieces as she goes on what she thinks is reasonable or what could have happened or what sounds good. Like, I don't think she actually remembers either. There was a lot of alcohol, that she had. I don't think she should have been driving. She knows she shouldn't have been driving. And I know she's trying to play it up now that John O'Keefe was just using her for a ride. And that she was the chauffeur or whatever. I think she insinuated herself into that situation back and forth with John. She could have stayed home in Mansfield if she really felt like that. There was a snowstorm coming, but because he wouldn't pick up the phone and talk to her and this and that, she's just, the whole thing is so manipulative and so like ridiculous back and forth. Neither of them were very nice to each other that day, back and forth in that conversation. There wasn't a lot of respect going on. It did read to me like a dying relationship. Like they both had it with each other. They just, neither one knows how to call it quits yet. It does seem that they had lost patience with each other greatly. Well, it's where I think perhaps admitting all of the text messages of Brian Higgins and Karen Reed was not exactly a good move on the defense's part. I think it went more negative to Karen Reed. I don't know what you guys think. But to see how long the text messaging went on, it wasn't just one day or this or that. It was a while. To see that it went on all the way until they actually met up. We should be coming back any minute now, hopefully. Although they're often late. They are so often late. Those texts looked like he wanted out, but she wanted it to end on her terms. Yeah, I don't think either one of them seemed to be very happy. She's obviously complaining. She's not happy. She wants things to change. It's just a sad situation all around. Like, it must be very hard for others to hear all the personal details about what was going on in John's life before this. Yeah, I feel for his family. It must be opening a wound every time. It does seem like she just wanted to blame him. Like, yeah, there was like the only way to break up is if it's always his fault. Yeah, she said, yep, look how I tried, but he was just so nasty to me. Yeah. And I don't know, because like, when they were out in public, they seemed, happy, like they're getting along, but we know that they were fighting during the day. We know that there's testimony from people that lived in the house that they were fighting almost every day. Well, that's not that unusual. Couples will often put on a brave face out in public, not letting people know what's really going on, you know. So it's hard to say, but there is video evidence of smiling and hanging out together. It didn't look like it was a big problem. Mm. But in those text messages, he did say he wasn't so willing to just jump right back into everything after the arguments they had been having. He wasn't feeling that. He wasn't feeling it like that. And that's what she was accusing him of. Just tell me you're just not interested in me anymore. And he's like, I'm just like tired of the fighting. I'm tired of stuff. Like, I don't want it to be like this anymore. She had her independence. She did. And she coveted it. And she was already telling people it's not the kind of life she wanted with the kids and everything. So I don't understand why she didn't just leave either. That comment about why she wants her own bed to sleep in just showed a level of disconnection from normal human interaction. Yeah, well, also she has a long-term illness, so that could have played into it too. Like I try to give her a little grace there, knowing with people's sleep patterns and stuff like that when you have an illness and you need to sleep. But at the same time, when she went back to the house, she said she went to their bedroom, the two of them. So I don't know what's true. I'm not sure she did have a separate room. I think she just might have said that to Higgins to imply that her and John were not having relations. Hmm? To imply that, you know, there was something wrong in the relationship to make him more comfortable for going for it. That's what I think. I think it was a manipulation tactic, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. Just a notion. Exactly, Maggie. I don't understand why she didn't just leave. It's like she said, well, if you tell me there's somebody else, you'll never hear from me again. And I'm like, why do you have to wait until he's involved with somebody else? If you're not happy and he's not happy, be mature. Be grown up about it.
All right, so I'll see counsel at sidebar.
What? Okay, they're not bringing up the whole thing. Why? Why? Okay. What's going on there? Okay, there they go. But of course, it's a sidebar anyway. We'll come back right for the sidebar. But we're back. Number 5. Yes. I'd say it's number 5 for sure. Yeah. Or is it 6? Like, was the other one count? Oh, no, she said no to the other one. Yeah. Yeah, I know. But like I said, Liam, I think she used it. I'm just giving her grace because I know about her illness, but I think she was trying to manipulate Brian Higgins with those statements about the societal norms and it being archaic to sleep in the same bed. Yeah, whatever. That's what I said to her about that. But still, you know what I mean? Like I do think it was manipulative. So this was Yannetti's sidebar that he wanted. Yeah, I think we thought it was 6 because she was going to do sidebar, but she did break instead, and it sounds like she took the break and did not talk to David Yannetti. So, and the prosecution, you know. Yeah, I know, Liam, like all hyped up to be all edgy and cool and cutting edge, that whole thing. Yeah, I think Brian Higgins kind of saw through it. We'll see if after this sidebar, Mr. Yannetti can stay on track with his actual cross-examination and stay out of the weeds that he's already been advised or not to be part of it. Hmm. Hmm.
Counsel. Exhibit II for ID.
Thank you.
Okay. I heard the jury, but they went back to the fan. Okay, let's hope that we will continue our cross now.
So as a session, please be seated.
All right, may we have Sergeant Clark, please?
Okay, we're bringing back Sergeant Zachary Clark from Massachusetts State Troopers, State Police, rather. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Sir, when you went with Michael Proctor to interview Colin Albert, you knew that the case originated on January 29th of 2022?
I was aware of that.
And the date that you conducted that interview was July 18th of 2023?
That's correct.
Did you ever ask Michael Proctor why he waited a year and a half to interview Colin Albert?
I did not.
Once that interview was concluded, one of the two of you had to write a report to document what Colin Albert had told you, correct?
That's correct.
And Michael Proctor, as the lead investigator, was the one to write the report, correct?
Michael Proctor wrote that report.
You did not write it.
Correct.
He chose the language to use in that report, correct?
Correct.
And you weren't standing over him while he was typing it up, correct?
Correct.
And he wrote that report to his supervisor without running every word by you, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever review that report to check whether it was accurate?
Not before it was published.
And the only other thing I have for you, sir, is you were called to photograph evidence on February 1st. Were you ever asked to go to 34 Fairview Road on February 8th to photograph and document evidence supposedly found on that day?
No, I was not.
Were you ever asked to go to 34 Fairview Road to document any evidence on February 10th?
No, I wasn't.
How about February 11th?
No, sir.
And then on February 18th, nearly 3 weeks after January 29th, did anybody contact you to ask you to come out and photograph and document evidence that was supposedly found 3 weeks later?
Ask it differently, Ms.
Yes.
Yannetti.
Were you called out to 34 Fairview Road on February 18th of 2022 to photograph and document anything?
February 1st was the only date I was called to 34 Fairview, sir.
So the answer to my question is no, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any follow-up, Mr. Lally? Sorry?
No redirection.
Okay. Thank you. All right. you're all set, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, folks.
Next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth called Evan Brent to the stand.
Okay. Excuse me.
Let's read the court adjourned the case down here and show the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
My name is Evan Brent, B-R-E-N-T.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I work for the Massachusetts State Police
And how long have you been a trooper with the Massachusetts State Police?
for just under 8 years.
And in what capacity do you currently work with the State Police?
Currently, I am a sergeant and I'm assigned to the Leominster Barracks.
Now, going back to when you initially joined the State Police, did you undergo any training?
Yes, I did.
And could you please describe for the jury, generally speaking, what that training consisted of?
I went to the State Police Academy in New Braintree. I attended the 83rd Recruit Training Troop from August 2017 until January of 2018. And I learned about different topics that you would expect to learn about at an academy, such as criminal law and procedure and motor vehicle law, to name a few.
Now, when you joined the State Police, where were you initially assigned?
I was initially assigned to the Holden Barracks
And how long were you at that barracks?
for about 3 or 4 months.
And where did you go from there?
I went to the Charlton Barracks
And how long were you in Charlton?
for a little over a year.
And then following Charlton, where did you go from there?
I went to a unit called Crime Scene Services.
Now, what specialized training did you receive in relation to that work with the Crime Scene Services Section unit?
New members assigned to crime scene undergo a progressive training program that consists of completing a series of modules, each of which has assigned readings and a written test for each one. It moves on to assisting in the lab and then eventually assisting in the field. There's additional assigned readings, classroom instruction, and it concludes with a series of competency tests that must be passed before you are assigned your own casework.
Now, when you're working for the Crime Scene Services Section, how are assignments or how are you assigned to a particular case or investigation?
As cases come in, if you're on call, you would own that case if it's your call day, if something comes into the lab or something you need to respond to.
And how long do those on-call periods typically last for?
Typically, when I was there in Maynard, it was 24 hours. So you would own a day starting at 7 in the morning and it would go all the way until 7 the next morning.
Now, how big of an area does that particular unit, the Crime Scene Services Section, how big of an area does it cover?
The Maynard lab covers somewhere between, I think, 50 and 55 different municipalities.
Now, sir, were you working with the State Police Crime Scene Services Section on February 3rd of 2022?
Yes, I was.
And where were you requested to go on that date?
I was requested to respond to an address in Canton.
And do you recall what that address was?
It was 34 Fairview.
And approximately what time did you arrive at that location on Fairview Road?
It was about 9:45 in the morning.
And who did you meet upon your arrival there?
I met with several members of the State Police Detective Unit for Norfolk County.
And do you recall specifically who those members of the State Police Detective Unit were?
Yes, there was Lieutenant Tully, Sergeant Buchanan, Trooper Proctor, Trooper DeChico, and Trooper Moore.
And when you arrived there, what were you asked to document on that occasion?
There was a search effort digging through some snowbanks that they were looking for some items. They wanted me to document it with photography.
Now, during that search effort, were items located and recovered?
Yes.
Now, can you describe for the jury the process of item recovery that you observed there on that day?
So once an item was excavated, I would be alerted. I would come over, I would document the item in its place, and then one of the detectives would use a gloved hand, and that item would be bagged and documented on the bag.
Was that the same with respect to each item that was photographed by you and then bagged by the State Police Detective Unit?
Yes.
Now, if I could just ask you, if you could expound a little, when you say excavated, what do you mean by that? What did you see being done that day?
They were digging with shovels.
And as far as the items that were recovered, do you recall where they were in relation to the snow pile and the ground itself?
Some were on top of the snow. So there was some significant snow melt. I think that day it was raining out and it was much warmer than it was previous 3 days. So some had been revealed by this melted snow, so they were on top. Others were under a foot and a half of snow.
Now, what kind of instruments or tools do you use in addition to your camera when you're photographing items?
So items of interest would be documented with a scale, so that way it would show how big the item is.
And why is it that you use a scale as far as photographs are concerned when it comes to certain items?
Because some of the photos, you wouldn't be able to tell how big the item is or proportionally what it looks like. So it has the scales, just a little ruler that shows exactly how big the item is.
Now, sir, upon your completion of documenting recovery of items at Fairview Road, were you asked to go anywhere else?
Yes, I was.
And where were you asked to go?
I was asked to go to an address 1 Meadows Road.
And who went with you there?
Trooper Proctor.
And once there, what were you asked to document or memorialize at that secondary location of 1 Meadows Ave?
There was a vehicle in the driveway that he wanted me to document.
And was that a Chevrolet Traverse? Is that correct?
Yes.
And were you asked to document anything else with respect to the home adjacent to that driveway?
There was a camera up above the garage that he had pointed out. So I just documented that as well.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
We're showing you a disc. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
So what do you recognize that to be?
It's a disc of crime scene photos.
And the photos on that disc are those the photos that you took at each of those respective locations on February 3rd, both 34 Fairview and 1 Meadows Ave.
Yes.
And what's contained on that disc and those photos, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed at each of those respective locations that day?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, Commonwealth seek to introduce the minutes of the next exhibit. And same caveat, as long as that's all that's on that disc, we have no objection.
Okay. Coming in.
Exhibit 135.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you a series of 7 photographs. Do you recognize generally what's depicted in those 7 photographs?
Yes.
And in the first 5 of those photographs, is that essentially taking photographs as you walk around the Chevrolet Traverse in the driveway that day?
Yes, that is correct.
And the last 2 were of the garage doors at One Meadows Ave, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Commonwealth to seek to introduce and admit at the next exhibits. No objection.
Exhibit 136.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish those photographs in a relatively short fashion with the jury?
Sure.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 7749. And Trooper, just briefly, what are we looking at in this photograph?
The front entrance to that address, One Meadows.
Ms. Gilman, 7752. And Trooper, same question. What are we looking at here?
That was the vehicle in question.
And if you could, Trooper, just describe sort of perspective-wise what portion of the vehicle we're looking at in this photograph.
So we are looking at an angle view of a Chevy Traverse.
And Ms. Gilman, 77.
I don't know what they're doing with the audio, but that's definitely their feed. I don't know why it's
And
going
again,
in and
Trooper,
out.
what portion of the vehicle in this photograph?
It's going to be an angle view of the rear of the vehicle and the passenger side.
And Ms. Gilman, 7769. And again, Trooper, what portion of the vehicle in this photograph?
This is the front of the vehicle.
And Ms. Gilman, 7771. Again, Trooper, what are we looking at in this photograph?
And an angle view of the front of the vehicle and the driver's side.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 7777.
Hmm?
And again, Trooper, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is the driver's side rear quarter panel.
And Ms. Gilman, 7791.
Hmm.
Now, you also took photographs of the garage doors at One Meadows Ave, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how many garage doors did you observe there that day?
2 garage doors.
And which of the 2 is this?
This is going to be the right garage door.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 7795. And which of the 2 garage doors is this, Trooper?
This will be the left garage door.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gilman, thank you very much. You can take those down.
Hmm.
Now, Trooper Brent, from your observations of those photographs and your observations personally, visually on scene February 3rd at One Meadows Ave, what damage did you observe to the garage doors at that residence?
I did not observe any damage to them.
And again, both from your view of those photographs and your in-person visual observations of the Chevy Traverse from all angles on that date of February 3rd, what damage did you observe to that Chevy Traverse?
I observed no visible damage.
Thank you, sir. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Yannetti?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Trooper.
Morning, sir.
To be clear, the Chevy Traverse that you photographed at One Meadows, you did so on February 3rd of 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you realized at the time that was 5 days prior to the incident in question, which was January 29th of 2022?
5 days after, not prior.
Did I say prior?
You did.
Thank you for correcting me because you're right. You were photographing it 5 days after January 29th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's fair to say, sir, that your earliest involvement in the case was February 3rd of 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you don't know, and you didn't know at the time who had access to that traverse during those 5 days, correct?
That is correct.
Now, as of February 3rd of 2022, you, I believe, testified you were part of the crime scene services section of the Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes, sir.
You met former Trooper Michael Proctor on February 3rd at 34 Fairview Road in Canton.
Yes, I did.
At the time, did you know you were at the home of a Boston police officer named Brian Albert?
I did not.
And February 3rd was the first and only time that you responded to 34 Fairview Road, correct?
That is correct.
With regard to anything that you saw on the lawn or on the snow that day, you have no personal knowledge as to how any of those items got there, correct?
I do not.
And 5 days after January 29th, you had no personal knowledge at the time of who had access to that front lawn during those 5 days, correct?
That is correct.
You had no information that a guard had ever been posted near that lawn?
Not that I'm aware of.
And when you got there, there was no crime scene tape, correct?
No, there was not.
There was no tent?
No.
Other than the police officers standing there on February 3rd, the lawn was open to anyone who wanted to look at it, just like any other lawn in the street, right?
I'm unaware of that. I don't know.
Now, in terms of your actions that day in documenting the scene with photographs, you did not write a report on what you saw and what you photographed, correct?
I took notes of what I saw and what I photographed.
Day, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further, sir. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Lally?
Very briefly.
Okay.
Just for clarity, Trooper Brent, you did write a report in relation to your response documentation on February 3rd, 2022, correct?
That is correct.
And you mentioned that you also took notes, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what did those notes entail?
It detailed several items that were collected, my response times, and who else was there on scene.
Now, when you were there on scene, as far as 34 Fairview on February 3rd, what did you observe as far as these? You mentioned that the weather had gotten warmer, some snow had melted. What did you observe specifically as far as the snow accumulation on that front lawn area in the area of the flagpole of 34 Fairview.
Objection beyond the scope.
Sustained. Sustained.
As far as these items, again, when they were recovered, several of these items were under how much snow?
I would estimate about, there was one particular item that was about a foot and a half under the snow.
Nothing further.
Nothing on that.
All right. All right, Trooper, you are all set, sir. Thank you. Who is the Commonwealth's next witness?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth called Brian Gallerani to the stand.
Okay.
Your Honor, as this witness is approaching, can I just move into evidence clips 19 and 20 that were previously played for the jury?
Yes.
Thank you.
137.
Thank you.
You solemnly swear the evidence given before the jury in the case narrative here, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court?
Brian Gallerani, Gallerani.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm currently employed as a sergeant for the Needham Police Department.
And how long in total have you been a member of the Needham Police Department?
19 years.
And how long have you held the rank of sergeant?
2 years. It'll be 2 years in July.
Now, prior to holding the rank of sergeant with the Needham Police Department, what did you do before that at the Needham Police?
I was a detective for 8 years.
Now, over the course of your work as a detective with the Needham Police Department, what training have you received in regard to collection of biological samples?
I've been certified by the Mass State Police since 2015 in collecting DNA.
Now, can you explain just briefly to the jury sort of what that process of certification entailed? Sort of how did you become certified?
Excuse me. So specifically, I was certified in DNA buccal swab, which is the process of obtaining cells suitable for comparison, DNA comparison, by swabbing a person's cheek, cells, and gums.
And that certification that you received, is that up to date at this point?
It is.
Now, at some point on January 16th of 2024, did you have occasion to collect buccal swabs or samples in relation to this case?
I did.
And before I get to that, just briefly, as far as with your work as a Needham Police detective and or sergeant, you had no involvement with any investigation either by the Canton Police or the State Police in relation to any incident in the town of Canton, correct?
Correct.
Now, with respect to that date of January 16th, where did you go?
I went to Norfolk County DA's office in Canton.
And who did you meet with, or who did you collect samples from on that occasion?
I collected samples from Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan.
And again, briefly, can you explain to the jury the process of that collection of samples from Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor?
Mm-hmm. So I swabbed the inside of their mouths with a cotton swab. I let it air dry, put it in the kit, sealed it, and photographed it.
And then following your collection, what did you do with those collections once? Earlier.
I did.
Now, with
I'll
reference
just
to
stop.
those
Well,
items,
people
at some
stopping.
point, were you informed that those items were to be transferred or transported to a Bodie Technology Lab in Virginia?
Yes.
And were there any specific instructions as far as shipping that you received from the lab in reference to those items?
There were.
And did you comply with those instructions as far as how those items were shipped from the Needham Police Department to the Bodie Lab in Virginia?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Any questions from the defense?
Very briefly, Judge. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Were you ever asked to do any buccal swabs of Chief Berkowitz of the Canton Police Department?
I'll allow that.
No,
Were you ever asked to do any buccal swabs of Detective Kevin Albert of the Canton Police Department?
no,
Were you ever asked to do any buccal swabs of Lieutenant Brian Tully of the Massachusetts State Police?
no.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Anything, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much, Sergeant. You're all set.
Thank you.
Next witness for the Commonwealth?
Commonwealth calls Maureen Hartnett.
Follow me, ma'am.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You consider stand wherever you're comfortable. Just please keep your voice up, okay?
Yes.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and offer the spelling of your last name?
My name is Maureen Hartnett, Hartnett.
Could you tell us where you presently work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
Before you began working at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory, did you receive any education, any further schooling after high school?
Yes, I did.
Could you share that with us?
I have a bachelor's degree in biology from Bridgewater State University and a master's degree in forensic science from the University of New Haven.
After you graduated with your master's, did you begin working at the crime laboratory or did you work somewhere else before?
I began working at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
How long have you worked at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory for?
I've worked there in total approximately 9 years.
Can you give us a basic understanding of how the crime laboratory you work at is broken down, the different departments and what you do?
There are various units within the laboratory. There is the criminalistics unit, which is the unit I work for, the DNA unit, the Office of Alcohol Testing, the Arson and Trace unit, and each of those units is comprised of civilian workers. And there's also portions of the laboratory that are made up of sworn or troopers that work for crime scene services section as well as the firearms identification section.
Would you consider your role a civilian worker or are you a Massachusetts State Police trooper?
I'm a civilian worker.
You mentioned that one of the departments that you work in is the criminalist unit.
The criminalistics unit.
Could you give us a little more detail about what the unit does?
In the criminalistics unit, we examine items of evidence for the possible presence of biological fluids. We conduct trace identification, damage analysis, as well as gunshot residue collections on evidence.
Do different employees do different things in that unit, or do all the employees, are they trained to conduct all of those different type of testing?
There are specific types of analysis that only certain members of the unit will conduct based on the fact that those types of analysis are not requested very often.
Is the unit broken down by level of experience? Are there different roles within the unit based on experience?
Yes, there are.
Could you explain that, how it's broken down, the structure of it for us?
Generally, a training analyst will be a forensic scientist 1, which means they're in training and they're not performing any type of independent casework. Once an analyst is authorized to perform independent casework, they are then a forensic scientist 2. And that above them would be their supervisors, which are forensic scientists 3. And that is specific to the unit. And then as the chain of command goes up, there are additional levels as well.
Do you have a particular level that you've achieved?
Currently, I'm a forensic scientist 2 in the criminalistics unit and crime scene response unit.
In addition to your education and your master's degree, do you receive any specific training when you enter the unit?
Yes, every analyst will receive generally the same training when they enter the unit. It is written in our protocol, so it is standardized, and that is completed once they enter the unit. It takes approximately 9 to 12 months to complete that training.
Is there any ongoing training involved when you work in the criminals unit?
Yes, as a part of our accreditation, we also receive ongoing education yearly.
You mentioned accreditation. Can you briefly tell the jury what that means as it relates to the unit and the lab?
Accreditation is a voluntary quality assurance program that the laboratory is a part of. And basically their role is to ensure that our protocols, our procedures, our equipment, and our personnel are held to a certain level based in the scientific community.
In your role, do you do all of your testing at the office or in the lab?
As part of the crime scene response unit, I will respond to crime scenes and I will perform some testing and collection at crime scenes as well.
How long have you been involved in the crime scene response unit?
I've been involved with the crime scene response unit the same amount of time I've been in the criminalistics unit, which is approximately a total of 9 years.
As part of crime scene response, do you actively go to an ongoing developing scene, or do you arrive somewhere after the event?
It depends on the circumstances. Oftentimes we are called out to a scene directly after the incident takes place. There are times when we also will examine additional items or additional scenes after the fact.
How many scenes have you responded to as far as crime scene response where you were the person who was in charge?
I would say approximately 300.
When you are asked to or assigned to go to a scene, a crime scene, whether it's active or whether it's later in time, do you make an assessment when you get there, or is there a plan developed before you leave your office and get to the scene?
I'm sorry, can you be more specific?
Sure. How do you decide what you're going to do before you get there?
Generally, when I arrive on scene, I get a brief description of what they think may have occurred. Of course. I will take an overall sketch and diagram of the scene, and I also take some notes of the scene before I perform any type of testing or collection.
When you arrive at a scene and you start engaging in an analysis and determine whether you want to do testing, are you allowed to use your own independent judgment?
Yes, I use my training and experience to determine what items I would like to test and what items I would like to collect.
Is there ever any input by whatever law enforcement team or officer is at the response scene?
Yes, there is.
You mentioned that you've been to a number of crime scene responses. I want to ask you specifically about a response on February 2nd, 2022. Do you remember that?
May I check the date on that?
With the court's permission, please.
Yes.
Thank you. So I responded to a crime scene on February 1st of 2022.
My apologies. Where did you go on February 1st, 2022?
I was dispatched to the Canton Police Station in their garage area.
When you went to the Canton Police Department, did anybody else from your lab go with you?
There was a crime scene services trooper that also responded at the same time, but there was no additional crime scene responder from my unit that responded.
Did you arrive at the Canton Police Department?
Yes, I did.
Is there a garage that you were directed to?
Yes, I was.
When you arrived at the garage, which sometimes may be referred to as a Sally Port area, were there any other people there when you arrived?
There were Massachusetts State Police troopers as well as some Canton police officers.
Did you know who they were?
I did know who the Massachusetts State Police trooper was, yes.
Was Michael Proctor there?
Yes, he was.
Was Trooper Dunn there?
Yes, he was.
Was Trooper Clark there?
Yes.
You mentioned Canton Police Department officers. Do you know Lieutenant Gallagher?
Yes, I did have an interaction with Lieutenant Gallagher as well.
When you got there, did you have a chance to look at an item?
Yes.
Tell us what your focus was on. What type of item?
I was asked to examine a black Lexus SUV.
And was there a black Lexus SUV?
Yes.
As you were observing and analyzing the item, did you see whether anybody was taking photographs?
Yes.
When there's a person taking photographs, do you ever have any input or direct them, or do they do that totally independent of you?
After they're done doing what they're required to do, I will ask them to take specific photographs because I do not perform that function at a crime scene.
When you first arrived, did you have a chance to walk around the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you observe the vehicle from standing behind it, looking at the back of it?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is the rear of the black Lexus SUV.
Does that photograph, does it appear to be substantially accurate to what you saw that day?
Yes, it is.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw?
Yes.
May I approach again?
Yes.
Always move this into evidence, please.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 138.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show P-145.
Okay.
Ms. Hartnett, is that what you saw when you arrived?
Yes, it is.
Did anything stand out to you when you first looked at the back of that Lexus?
I noticed there was some damage to the rear passenger area of the vehicle.
You can take that down, please. Did you have a chance to walk around and look at the vehicle from the driver's side of the vehicle, the left side?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Okay, I'm showing you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
This is the driver's side of the Lexus.
Did the Lexus appear to you the same as it does in that photograph?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction?
Yes.
All right, move this into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Exhibit 139.
With the court's permission, I'd ask to show the jury P-144.
Okay.
Could you describe what you saw, ma'am?
Yes. So this is the driver's side of the black Lexus.
Thank you. You can take that down. Did you get a closer look from the right side of the Lexus to pay detail or attention to what you described from the back view that stood out to you?
Are you referring to the damaged area?
I am.
Yes. So I did take notes of that area and as well as had additional photographs taken of that area.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you a photograph. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a close-up photograph of the rear passenger side tail light area.
Does that photo depict what you saw that day?
Yes, it does.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to use that as an exhibit.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 140.
May I show it to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
P-161, please. Could you describe what you saw?
Yes, that is the rear passenger tail light of the vehicle.
Is that how it appeared when you first walked in that day?
Yes, it is.
You can take that down. Thank you. When you examine an item like a car, do you take any type of efforts to protect from contamination?
Yes.
What do you do?
Before processing or touching any item of evidence, I'll put on gloves. I use disposable instruments whenever possible, or if I need to use reusable instruments, I will spray them with a 10% bleach solution prior to use. I also change gloves often while I'm examining a vehicle and keep my notes and my pens that I'm writing my notes with. I don't put on gloves when I touch those. And then when I go back to examining the vehicle, I will then re-put on gloves to protect the evidence.
If you see something of note, something that stands out to you, do you have any way of marking the item?
Yes, I take diagrams at the scene and note on my diagrams anything of note. And as I had said, if there's anything that I also want close-up photographs, then I will request the crime scene services trooper who's assigned to crime scene to take those photographs.
Do you ever put any type of markers on the item itself?
Yes, generally I will mark the items with either a letter or a number so that I'm able to refer back to them both in my notes, and I'm able to refer to them when I look at the photos.
When you mark different items or observations that you make, do you give a specific number to each item for to memorialize it?
Yes, I either use a lettering system or a numbering system.
And how do you memorialize it? Do you put it in writing?
Yes.
What do you do?
On my diagram, I will refer to something, for example, as letter A, and then I'll also mark that item using a marker on the item of evidence with the same letter so that I can connect and associate the photograph with my notes and anything that I collect as well.
In addition to the broken taillight that we just looked at, did you make observation of any other things? And I'm just asking generally, not asking you to specify.
Yes.
Were there other things that stood out to you?
Yes.
Did you take any swabs, any fake swabs from as far as trace for blood?
I screened for blood on various areas of the undercarriage of the vehicle.
And what was the results?
Those were negative.
What does negative mean?
It means that there was no blood present in that area, or if there was, it was below the level of detection of our test.
Did you make any observations where you saw items or marks of interest?
Yes.
I want to ask you about any observations you made of the back bumper. Was there anything significant that you saw relative to the back bumper of that vehicle?
Yes.
And share with us what you saw.
There were scratches on the bumper as well as apparent pieces of glass on the bumper.
When you saw what you believe to be pieces of glass on the back bumper, what is the process you follow?
I gave those an identifying letter. I noted those items in my diagram, and then I eventually collected those items.
How do you collect them?
I would have used either disposable tweezers or tweezers that were cleaned with a 10% bleach solution.
After you collect the items, for example, glass on the back bumper, what do you do with that?
In that moment or later on?
Take us through from the moment you have it till the end.
So I would put those pieces of glass into a glassine envelope, which are then packaged in a larger manila envelope. They are sealed and dated and initialed with my dates and initials. Eventually, when I return to the lab, those pieces are given an item number and then secured in our cold room.
Is each piece of evidence given a separate item number?
Yes.
As far as the entire case, your entire response, not the separate pieces of evidence you may find, is it assigned a particular number or a case number?
Yes, each case will get a larger case number, and then each item within that case gets an individual item number, so that item can be tracked throughout the lab.
Do you remember from your memory what the case number of this investigation as far as your response was?
Yes.
Could you share that with us?
The case number assigned to this in the laboratory information system was 22-2184.
I want to go back to the glass on the bumper. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw that day?
Yes.
And could you generally describe what you see?
This is a close-up photograph of the apparent glass on the bumper of the vehicle.
Can we listen to evidence, please?
No objection, Your Honor.
141.
Court's permission, I'd like to show P167 to the jury.
Okay.
There are 2 pointers in front of you. Would you mind pointing out for the jury what stood out to you? And Ms. Gilman, could we get a little bit of a close-up on that bumper, please?
So I can see one of the, it's a little difficult to see, but I do see one of the larger pieces of apparent glass right here. Would it be better if I use this one?
Could you? Do you
Sure.
mind?
So this piece here is a larger apparent piece of glass. I think that was the largest one that I saw.
And those two white stickers, could you tell us what those are?
This sticker, this sticker here is marking where the apparent pieces of glass are.
Is there another sticker above, or is that? just
I'm
a
not
different
sure. If you could close up, I'm not sure what that is. Yes, so that is another sticker, and next to that sticker are additional pieces of glass.
Those items to the right of that picture, are those pieces of glass?
Yes, I would say that's an apparent piece of glass here, and this one.
Could we just go down to the bottom part again, please? Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that down. Did you collect what appeared to be items of glass?
Yes, I did.
Were they assigned a particular number?
Yes,
Do you know that number off
I would have to refer to my notes.
with the court's permission?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please.
Those items were given the item number 3-3.
Did you focus on the right rear side of the vehicle beyond the broken taillight?
Yes,
Did you notice any damage, any scratches to the right quarter panel or the right side of that Lexus?
yes, I did. I noticed some scratches as well as a dent in the rear door in that same area.
Let's start with the scratches first. When you notice scratches, is there a way you marked them?
Yes, I would have given them a letter.
And did you do that?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a photograph. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes.
What does it depict?
It is a close-up photograph of one of the scratches on the right rear area of the vehicle.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes.
All right, move this into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right.
Exhibit 142.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show the jury P-172.
Okay.
Could we close up just a little more, Ms. Gilman? Thank you. Starting at the bottom, what is that, ma'am?
That is a close-up of the scratches that I noted in that area.
Could you zoom out again, please, Ms. Gilman? Is that on the back bumper or the right quarter panel?
I believe it's on the right bumper. It's a little difficult to make out in that photo.
Could you zoom in again and move up just a little higher, Ms. Gilman? Thank you. You have another sticker on the top?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That is an apparent hair that I noted in that area.
So that doesn't designate a scratch. That's something entirely separate and different.
That's something different, correct?
We'll get to that later. I just wanted to point out that it's not a scratch. Now, you mentioned that you saw a scratch. Was it a singular scratch or a number of scratches? Could you zoom in, please, Ms. Gilman?
It was a couple of scratches.
Is there a number you designate if it's not a physical item, if it's something like a scratch, or the designations just for actual physical items?
I use the designation for both observations as well as physical items.
Would there be a number for the scratches?
Yes, well, there's a letter, yes.
Do you know what that letter is?
Yes, I believe it's D.
D. Okay, thank you. Take that down, please, Ms. Gilman. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you another photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes.
What is it?
That is damage that I noted on the rear trunk door of the vehicle.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw?
Yes.
When you say damage, what type of damage did you notice?
There was some scratches as well as a dent.
I'd like to move this into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 143.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show the jury P176. Can we zoom in just a little bit more, please? You told us that you saw both dent and scratches. Starting with the scratches with the pointer on the TV to your right, could you show us where you saw further scratches?
So the scratches are up above, and then down here, there's chipped paint and a dent.
And where is the dent in relation to the scratches?
Just below it.
Could we zoom in a little more if we could, Ms. Gilman, please? Can you see in this photograph the dent that you saw?
Yes, I was referring to this area here as a dent in my observations.
Thank you. You can take that down, please. You mentioned a hair. I'm going to ask you some questions. How many pieces of hair did you find attached to that Lexus?
I found one apparent piece of hair on the Lexus.
Was there a designation number for the hair that you found?
Yes.
Do you remember what that number is?
I used the letter A for that particular item.
Did you say letter A, ma'am?
Yes, correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you two photographs. You take a look at the first photograph, please. You recognize that picture?
Yes, I do.
And what's in that photograph?
This is a photograph of the apparent piece of hair I noted on the rear area.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw that day?
Yes.
Turn to the second photograph, please. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is an additional photo of the apparent hair on the vehicle.
Both photographs of the same piece of hair?
Yes.
And the second photograph, is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw?
Yes.
I'd like to move these two photographs into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, is A and B, please.
144A and 144B.
With the court's permission, I'd like to show P173 to the jury. If you could get in as close as possible, Ms. Gilman. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And can you share with us what you saw?
This is a close-up photo of the apparent piece of hair on the rear of the vehicle.
What did you do when you saw that, what you thought to be a piece of hair?
I marked it with the tape. I designated it as letter A, and then I asked the crime scene services trooper to take a photograph of it.
Did you try to preserve it in any way?
Yes, I did.
Tell us how you preserved that apparent piece of hair.
I collected that hair with either disposable tweezers or tweezers that had been bleached with a 10% bleach solution. I put them in a glassine envelope and then put them in a larger manila envelope. In a larger manila envelope.
What happens to that larger manila envelope?
It is returned back to the lab. It is submitted under the same case number and given its own individual item number.
Did you bring it personally back to the lab?
Yes, I did.
When you brought it back to the lab, do you remember where you brought it when you got back to the lab?
After it was entered into the computer system, I then sealed it, I initialed and dated it, and then I would transfer it to the crime scene response holding area in our cold storage room.
When you pass it along, is it to protect it in evidence, or is it for a purpose of further testing?
At that point, it's just to store it in evidence, and then it will make its way into whatever unit needs the piece of evidence first.
And you did all that with that piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to show the second photograph that you identified. I believe it's P165. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's an additional photo of the apparent piece of hair on the rear of the vehicle.
In the two different photos, are they taken from the exact same angle?
I believe they're taken from slightly different angles.
And the hair, could you point that out with the pointer of the hair that you found?
This here is the apparent hair.
Thank you. You can take that down, please. Regarding the damage to the broken taillight, did you have any interest in maintaining that piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
What did you want to do?
I wanted to collect the entire taillight housing.
Why did you want to do that?
If there were pieces from the taillight that could be later matched to the taillight, I needed the entire housing to be processed at the lab.
Did you make efforts to try to maintain or remove or preserve that entire taillight housing?
Yes, I did.
What's a taillight housing?
Excuse me?
What is a taillight housing?
I'm referring to the entire piece, including the back, the glass covering, the light bulb inside. So it's in the entire unit.
Did you attempt to remove that entire unit yourself?
I did.
Were you successful?
No, I was not.
So what did you do?
A Canton police officer that was in the Sally Port at the time offered to help disconnect it with some tools that he had.
Have you ever seen whether there's video that memorialized that entire event?
Yes, there is.
And have you ever watched that video?
Yes, I did.
Does that video show you attempting to remove the housing and then receiving assistance from somebody?
Yes.
When that housing was removed, what happened to it?
I then placed it in a box, I believe I placed it in a paper bag in a box. And then once I brought it back to the lab, I added additional cushion with additional paper to protect it from any further damage.
Were you going to keep that housing or were you going to put that in evidence for other reasons?
That was put into evidence storage for the time being.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is a photograph I took of the taillight housing back at the laboratory upon examination.
Is that in substantially the same condition as when you saw it?
Yes.
Any differences whatsoever from when you saw it?
Not that I noticed, no.
Is that photograph fair and accurate of what you saw that day?
Yes.
All right, move this photograph into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 145.
With the court's permission, I'd show photograph P187 to the jury, please.
Okay.
Could you tell us what that is?
That is a photo that I took of the taillight housing at the laboratory.
And that's after it's obviously removed from the vehicle.
Yes, that's correct.
And that was packaged and preserved?
Yes.
You could take that down, please. Do you have the actual item, the actual housing with you?
I believe it is here, yes.
With the court's permission, I'd ask the witness to be able to open the item, show it to the jury, and then I would move it into evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. If you would you please remove the item from that box?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Do you have gloves available?
I brought gloves, yes.
You could hold that so the jury can see it. You could hold it up high, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you could return that to the box. I would move this item into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
That's the only item in that box?
There are additional items in that box as
Oh,
well.
I only want to introduce that one item.
Okay, So that bag, you need to take that bag out.
There are also other items in that bag.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Yes, why don't you go in? Actually, Paul, the lunch is here? All right, sure, the lunch isn't here, so this seems like a good time to take a break. We'll see you in about 50 minutes. Yeah, she can stay right here.
Of course.
Okay, jurors, right this way, please. Please rise for the jury.
Okay, going on lunch break while they work that out. Okay. So they're going to only take a 15-minute break, I heard her say. So they'll be back at 2 o'clock. So we'll be back just before that. And gosh, with all of the trouble we have had today with feeds, I hope the afternoon goes a little bit better. Here is the link to the next stream, which I'll be starting a few minutes before 2.
I asked her to describe what she's doing.
See what they're doing here.
We will listen to the rest of this. They're documenting what is in the bag, which is probably just pieces of the taillight that fell off while it was in the bag. Oh, man. And they cut the volume. But it said they were in court still. Like, why'd they cut the volume? This is not so fair. But anyway, it looks like they have to decide what they're going to be putting into evidence before that box. Makes sense to me that perhaps more pieces of the taillight fell off in the bag. That could be the additional things, but I don't know. I'm sure the label on the box says so. Yeah. Well, we shall see, right? I don't think they're going to be coming back. I'll give it another minute or two. And then I'll call it, and I will see you all back here for 2 o'clock. Well, actually, she said before that. She said 15 minutes. So, like, she means like quarter of. I don't know. I'll be watching the feed, though. I'll definitely come up before they go live. Let's hope that the feed stays up well this afternoon. You don't know when 2 o'clock is? 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. What is your time zone? I can translate for you. I could look it up. Okay, so it's almost 7 o'clock by you. Is that true? Then it would be almost 8 o'clock. Would be 2. You are 6 hours ahead of me. So it's almost 1 o'clock here. Okay. So in an hour. In almost an hour. But I'll be coming back about quarter of, like in 40 minutes. All right. So they're done. That's it, guys. We are going to end this one. And I will be back. Everybody get a good stretch, It's after dinner for you, Maya. I hope you see you like in a little bit. Well, now that I know the time frame, when I do the times, I'll help you out with that. I know, Liam, it's dinner time by you too, right? You and Maya are very close in time because I know it's 6 o'clock there. There's 7. A 1-hour toilet break, exactly. Woohoo! We get to stretch, empty our bladders, do all that stuff. I'm gonna go make some coffee and let the dog out so he's not mad at me. And I will see you all shortly. All this is proving to me is that those tail light pieces are actually can break. Exactly, and easily too. Like that's what I'm thinking. I'm hoping the jury's thinking it too. I just don't like all the confusion over evidence and everything. All of this stuff, it just gets on my nerves that they're not more organized, to tell you the truth. Well, it's just me. All right, I'll see you all shortly. Thank you.